All right, welcome to Hobby Speculators. We have a huge guest today. We have the Fupper Swizzle. He worked at Atari, Sega, 3DO, EA, Digital Eclipse. This guy is a legend in the hobby, so let's give a round of applause to the Fupper Swizzle for being on here. Kind of tell us about the jobs you had a little bit, and kind of how that led you into collecting games.
Okay. Well, should I say my name, my actual name?
And if you want to, I don't know if you want this people to know.
There might be some weirdos on the internet. Who knows?
Yeah,
They'll find it anyway.
They know me already, by the way. I'm joking. So I worked at all of those companies, and how did that get me into collecting? So, let's see. Back then, testing games was where I started Sega, and testing games was not. I wouldn't call it like super lucrative, but it was definitely. It kicked minimum wages ass back then. We were probably making, I think, $9.50 an hour. This is the early '90s.
Yeah. So
like $9.50 an hour, and a tester's living was made not so much on their 40 hours a week, but on all overtime you could get. So we had a lot of games that had to go through test, and a lot of it was based on you had to have a certain amount of hours of test on a game. So to advance it to like, hey, we've had this build, let's put 8, we know it's still prototype, let's put 80 hours on it. So you get 10 people work 8 hours on it in a day, and then they go, okay, they've got this many bugs, let's go back to the drawing board, we'll get another build in a week, and then we'll put another 80 hours on it. And then at the end, when you had to actually finalize the game, you had to get 200 hours of test without any crash bugs. Or if there was a crash bug, then the producer would have to waive the bug and say, okay, I know we're going to ship with this, because it's like it happened one time in 200 hours of test. Nobody can recreate it, so it's a random crash, and we'll just call it whatever, right? You have stuff like that. But anything repeatable, if you could get like a repeatable crash bug, that'd have to get fixed, and then it would have to get revved out, and then another 200 hours. So anytime people were finding these crash bugs at the end of the dev cycle, like all these resources are going over to one game. Like there's a ton of games in the department, but all these resources are happening, being thrown at this game. We got to get this out the door. And it could be kind of a painful process. And at peak times, we were running 3 shifts. So the department never closed. We had the regular shifts were 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. and then 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. That was day and night. And that was night shift. But then there was also in the crunch times, we had 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. as a graveyard shift. And overtime was really like, that was how you kind of made it. Cause $9.50 an hour times, okay, it's a few $100 or whatever, but it's not gonna pay your rent even back then. So, and then what sort of got me, it's funny cause I had an opportunity to buy a bunch of stuff when I was working. They had an employee purchase program. Yeah. So you could buy, as I remember it, you could buy, and this was any first party game that Sega sold in stores. You could buy a cartridge, like a box for like $20.
Was it sealed?
Sega CDs were 10. Yeah, sealed.
Wow.
Yeah, so you could get sealed. So I had it. It was funny. This one guy that I actually used to live with as roommate, he bought 6 copies of Crisscross Make My Video for $60, and then he turned around and returned them to Toys R Us.
Oh my gosh,
at full retail. He got full retail at one store, and he used that money to buy a Sega, because the Sega CD hardware wasn't discounted as much. Yeah. Like you could get like Sega CD back then were like $300, maybe you could get one for like $250. But he was like, hey,
so that's
I'll
why
buy these, return them,
yeah.
And then he got store credit, and then he got the Sega CD.
So that's the main reason they would cross out the UPC codes.
No, I think that kind of became a thing later. Like I think in the beginning. Well, so the funny story is, then I was like, oh, that worked. Oh shit, I'll do it too. So then I bought a bunch of copies of something, and I tried to return it to a Toys R Us, and the clerk was like, you didn't get all those here. We only sold like 1 copy of that game in this whole store like all year long. And I was like, oh, my mom got these for me. And he was like, yeah, he wasn't having it. So I had to go to like some other store. Like I had to try like other Toys R Us's to get it to actually work. I was like, that's a short-lived. But I think, so I have seen like a box for, what game was it? Like Super Thunderblade or something. I bought something from a guy at a convention, and he said he got the stuff from an old Sega employee. and it had the UPC cut out, but not just underneath the plastic of the clamshell, but like cut the plastic out and the UPC. So there was like no way you could return that, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the the start of that. I think that I think it just because people had been getting stuff, right, and then it was like stores were like, hey man, this stuff's expensive, like to take and return and like give something back, and then it's just dead stock, it's not going anywhere. So
I was just gonna say they had the employee stickers on them, right?
No,
did they have the employees? Well, they didn't.
No,
because as we saw with like Microsoft and things like that, right? They'll have, and I think Nintendo has them as well. But it literally says like employee store purchase. EA has them and things like that. Well, and it's a subset people don't know, and I would almost say that they're rare in a release standpoint, but it's a sub variant, right? Like I do think they should get more attention as time goes on, because it's a unique aspect of like video gaming and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean they get that designation when they get graded, right? For certain games. But yeah, Sega didn't. I think it was we were moving at the speed of thought at that point, right? It was just like, hey, let's do this, and then manufacturing would spool up and do something, and then it's hey, we got to do this other thing, and they just. So I don't think there was really much thought given to like, oh, we have to worry about people, returning this stuff or whatever. But then it became a thing, and then but I don't ever remember. I know I've seen those Sega stickers on like PAL games, like the European ones, and I think even on some Mega Drive stuff I've seen in like a black Sega sticker. But I think that was just like for standard packaging. I don't think that was anything specific to employee like EA. So like, but there wasn't it wasn't like a store. It wasn't like a. It was like you'd hand the sheet off to the admin in the department, right? And then she would go to whoever else who had the stuff, give them the cash, because you had to give them cash. Give them the cash, and then they would come back and they'd hand you whatever your little pile of games was you bought. Yeah, and so it was just all coming from they get a box from the warehouse or something, and then they just pull stuff out of that.
I know people are going to want to know. Okay, so you're testing the game.
One second, by the way. Just one second.
I know people are going to want to know, like, were you testing like a prototype? What was the cart you were testing? And did people like smuggle them out, or did they get them out, or like people are going to want to know how that process works?
Yeah, I actually have some here with me. I'll show you. So we would get ROM chips put onto a board. And here's one. This is Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine.
That's so dope. And was this a game that you played? Was this one that you actually played, or this?
Yeah, we tested this. Like this isn't my test copy. I had a little bit of a weird not a reputation. I'm gonna call it a reputation. I was stupid when I was younger, and I had a Super Nintendo copier before I joined Sega. And I have a big mouth, and I was telling people, hey, I got a copier, blah. And they were like, dude, that's not cool. He can't be, up in here, pirating shit. And I was like, well, I'm like 19, 20 years old. I'm being stupid. I'm like, well, at least it's Nintendo. Like, I'm hurting their business, not Sega. Yeah. But they were like, no, you can't. They're like, you can't have that and work here too. So they made me give them my copier. I actually have it in a box. The Super Magicom was what it's called. Me and my buddies all got one, and they made me hand it in. There was a contingency for my continued employment at Sega. Give us the copier, and then when you leave, you get the copier back. So that's how that worked. But so I had the spotlight was on me, and actually at one point in time there was a guy. So Mike Latham, who is now deceased, and he was kind of a controversial figure at Sega, but he was behind Eternal Champions and some other stuff, and we were kind of good friends in the beginning. Like we got each other, played Street Fighter and all this stuff, and then had kind of a falling out. And then at one point he had seen something. He was like, I'm walking past his cube. He's like, oh, hey, how's it going with you and my friend's name, who I won't mention. And I'm like, fine. He's like, well, I hope you guys are ready for, what's coming. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Apparently somebody had pirated a copy of one of the games that we had worked on. And in the hacker section of their little README file, they said, thanks to Joe and this other person's name for their help. And I'm like, dude, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, why, especially when I'm already on the radar, why would I risk my job to try to like, release a game? Like, I'm not getting any money for that. Like, there's no benefit to me. So it was like a total misunderstanding. It just happened to be very like serendipitous, circumstances.
Well, it was a setup.
It wasn't.
It was a setup.
It wasn't.
It was a setup to get the spotlight on whoever did it. He says your name, and then it's a cover up.
Well, I think it was just more of like he thought there was really a possibility that we were behind it, and I'm like, no, dude, there's no way.
No. I'm saying the guy that stole and
the person, maybe
because you had a spotlight already on. You don't think?
Maybe. I mean, if it was an internal job, I suppose that would be one way to do it. But it's just some weird hacker stuff. I mean, that whole era was. And it's turned out. So you talk about people having this, but it's just some weird hacker stuff. I mean, that whole era was, and it's turned out. So you talk about people having this hacker. I think. Well, I mean, it was a hacker group, right? Because these guys. I mean, everybody was pretty smart about how this stuff worked, right? It's like you put a cartridge in a slot, data comes out of it, right? There all these copying machines existed in previous era. It wasn't just Genesis, Super Nintendo. You had them for NES, you had them for Master System. Like, this stuff has been around, so it's not like this was anything new. Wow. But internally, like, I can tell you this, like, I shouldn't have this. Like, this was never supposed to leave the building. But some people were able to get stuff to, like, this is a red zone, I think. Some people were able to get stuff and take it home for testing, or they were the producer on the game, and so they had a build and they took it home, and then it just got lost in a box. And they find it, so like all the stuff that the robot, like this, like I sold most of it now, but like this machine, I've got what else do I have? Your World Series baseball.
That's crazy.
95, I think.
So do you think this stuff is undervalued? NBA action.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I'll tell you that I think the boards are worth more than the chips by far, because you can't get the boards anymore. They don't exist. Like, you could burn chips. So you could download a ROM, burn a chip, put a sticker on it, or not. Like, people freak out because they think, oh my god, it's exposed to light. It's gonna. Dude, we have to put these things in a UV oven, like a little tiny oven that just had like nothing but UV light pumping through it for an hour to try to erase the data. And sometimes after an hour, you'd pull the chip out and you couldn't write on it because it still had data on it. Like, this thing being out in the light of a fluorescent light, it's not, you have to work really hard to kill the data on these things.
So say someone
it's just for identification.
Okay, so someone buys that prototype, right? How do they use it if they wanted to like buy one, and how do they check it? What do you do?
Well, I mean, you can obviously plug it into a system and play it. For me, there's a couple ways. So I bought there's a device. There's multiple devices, but I have one called a Retrode. So you pop it in the Retrode, you plug it in your computer, and then when you turn it on, it reads the ROM. It can address the ROM data, so you just pull that off onto your drive, and then you can there's different tools you can use to read it, the header, the data itself. You could run it in an emulator, or you can actually, I pulled the individual chips off of the boards and used like just bought this like not that long ago, this little chip reader. Just bought this off of Amazon. You pop a chip in and you read the data, and then you save it. And then I used ChatGPT to make a script, because I'm not a coder, to make a script to recombine all of the ROMs into, and there's this weird thing with Sega stuff with Genesis where it has to interleave the data a certain way. So you have to like pull one byte from here and then one byte from the other chip, and then here this, and you stitch it together digitally, and then you can make an actual ROM out of it that way. So I had to do that because sometimes putting the cartridge in the Retrode, it wouldn't read the cart properly. I had to actually read the data off the chips, and then so I spent like almost a month. So this was a funny project. So my buddy, who he had a collection of stuff that he had been sitting on for like 30 something years, and he didn't even know what it was. He was kind of like, I think there's some stuff. I mean, he burned most of it, but he was like, he didn't really know exactly all what it was. And I was just like, dude, I'm just like, I've done this thing before where I've tried to like help people by selling stuff for them, and then like, paying them back, but it's like at a certain point in time, it's like it's so much effort, and there's this like sort of implied thing where it's like, oh, there's value in this, and then they get excited, but then if it doesn't sell for as much as I think it should, then they're disappointed. So it's like, you know what? It's just easier for everybody. I'll do all the heavy lifting. Let me just get this stuff from you, and then I'll go do all the work. So it took me like a month almost to like run through, pull all the data, compare against like, hey, is this the retail version or is this a prototype? Like, and the sort of that word prototype means different things to different people, because like I've got boards where it's a final build, right? It matches the retail ROM, but it's still on a board. It's still chips, not mass ROMs. So it's like
there's different versions of a prototype or of a game, because obviously it goes through revisions to check for bugs and all that other stuff.
Well,
what needs to be changed. But for the most part, like what's the most? Oh, I guess this is actually a good question to ask, especially since you're here. What, for a game that you've worked on or a game that you know of, what has had the most like prototypes for that specific game have you seen from like start to finish? Does that make sense?
Well, I know that. So the only one I am kind of aware of that people pay attention to and pay a lot of attention to is Sonic 2. Okay. I had taken we had this machine inside the department called I think I might have it somewhere around. I'll look for it later, but this thing called the screenshot machine. And what you do is you turn, it's a Genesis. It has a little red button. When you want to get to the part where you want to take a screenshot, you press the red button and it freezes the screen. All the data, everything stops. And then you take a picture, and it was like a little Canon digital picture, or like early, I guess, digital picture, where you press a button and the thing would come out like almost like a Polaroid, but like shiny, glossy paper. And then so people would do is they would use that, like if you needed to make a map of like a level, you'd play the game, you'd pause it, you'd take a snapshot, and then like literally people would cut out these things and tape them together to make like an actual like map, right? And then somebody would take a photo of that and then send that into the magazine or whatever needed it for publication. But you could also just take screenshots. So I took and I remember there was it was really early. I wish I had written the date on the back of the picture, but early on, Sonic 2 was one of the first games that I was testing. And I remembered that I was like, oh, the title screen changed. That's weird. And I have a build over here that still has the old title screen. I went to the screenshot machine and I made a picture of that. I posted that on Twitter back when I was doing Twitter stuff. And it was the most interacted with post I ever had. And people were like, oh, that must be the version that's in between this rev and this rev. Like they had it like mapped out, dude. Like they knew way the hell more about it than I did.
That's crazy.
And it was like, they're like, oh, here's a chronology. It's this. Oh, this fits right in the middle of it. I was like,
so how many boards do you think there are of Sonic 2? For that
I guess.
There's I don't know that there's any way to have a hard number, because it wasn't like, even like on Atari stuff. Like, have you guys seen those like Atari loaner carts?
Yeah.
Like those had like, oh, return this to so and so.
Yeah.
Like sometimes on the back of a board, I've seen. Let me see if there's one on any of these. I've seen the little sticker that's like return to, but it was a company. Yeah. It was a company, not like a person. And like I just don't. I don't know. I just don't know who is keeping track of that. And that's one of those things too, where it's like, so you've got a group of people that do that, and then somebody leaves, and it's like, oh, hey, can you take over this project where you're supposed to keep track? And it's like, I'm still trying to figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do in this job. So nobody was keeping track of that. So there could be, I would say it's probably, not like super high number, maybe, tens, like teens, 20s, maybe of certain games, when there was more of them and there was, more versions that were being tested and churned through really fast, there could be more, but like who's keeping that stuff? Like, I just don't know where you're gonna, there's no reliable like source to find that stuff. It's got to be in somebody's collection in a box. They forgot about it, right? I was talking to my friend, and he said he thinks he knows somebody who does have a Sonic 2 burn somewhere, like on a card, like on a ROM card.
Can we go back where all these were, like, where were the steps these were being stolen at? Like, who who would have taken one?
It's not stolen.
Or
Stolen's not the correct term.
Loaned.
Borrowed without asking.
Borrowed.
Yes.
Is it the janitor? Is it the testers? Is
it would have been.
Is it the dumpster diver?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
The guy who's outside the Sega headquarters going through the dumpster?
I can't speak to what they did with this stuff. I think they were kind of more responsible than that a little bit, but it could have been anybody. I mean, really, honestly, the testers had the most access as far as having the individual boards, right? The producers had access because it was their game, and I want to play too, right? And we would take a build, and they're not probably gonna. We had stacks. There's actually a video if you look on YouTube. There's a video called "This Is Sega Test." And it was done by a guy named John Jansen, who was a film student, and he was a tester, and he wanted to, do a project, and so he did this and they would show this to new hires. This was after I had already left, but they would show this video to new hires to say, okay, here's what your job's going to be. It's a 30-minute video, and at one point they're in the burn lab, and you can see just it's like there's a rack, and then there's these little tubs. And there's just stacks of these boards in these tubs, right? So the boards were at some level common, and the chips were, burning was the hard thing to do because we'd actually literally download BBS style. Developer would send us a build, and then we'd have to unpack it and run a little process to turn it into ROMs, and then burn them, and then hand out X number of cartridges to testers, and then get them back. And this was happening a mile a minute, right? In the course of a day, the burn lab is doing nothing but putting out burns for multiple games. We have,
and that's a burn is a ROM, is each ROM chip, or what is a burn?
I'm saying okay, so when I say a burn, I'm saying this whole thing. So imagine this is your game. You've got 8 chips, and 10 people need to have. So you got to burn 80 chips.
Wow.
And then put them on a board, and then hand them to somebody, and then have them test it, and then go, oh, we just got a call. Somebody found a massive crash bug. Pull all those back, get a new rev. Now burn 10 more, right? So here's 80 more chips you have to burn. And we just do that constantly, right?
So besides you, they're monitoring you hard because you said that one comment. Is there names on these to prove who owns which cart? Any tracking?
No, the only thing I found actually in this in that tranche of stuff that I got from my friend, I was reading the headers to check against retail ROMs, and there was one that had there was 2 that were notable. One had a string of data in it, which I think when I checked, it identified it as a Sega Channel ROM. So it was so the Sega Channel stuff was exactly identical to the retail stuff. It just had a little bit of an extra piece of information in the header to identify it as Sega Channel, but it was straight up the game, right? It's the same data. So it's just a little bit of a weird.
What is Sega Channel? What Sega Channel mean?
Sega Channel was the download service that Sega had for a little while, a couple of years. But then there was another board though that had it had junk data in it. I ran it through ChatGPT. Said, "Hey, what's this mean?" And they're "Oh, well, if I do this transform on it, it looks like the name Kit V." And it says Sega Visions. And I was like, okay, well, that's not coincidence. And so I looked it up, and in Sega Visions magazine, around that era from that game, I looked in the credits, and there was a name of an editor or something, Kit Verselli, the letter V. And I asked my friend, I was like, hey, did you work with this person? Oh, yeah, Kit was right. So it was somehow or another, they digitally stamped that person's name into that build. And I don't know if it was to identify who it came from or who it was going to.
Gotcha.
But it was specific for them to Sega Visions to do a review or something.
Yeah,
I've never you would not put some dummy who writes their name on a cart, hey, this belongs to so and so. No, it wasn't like that. You didn't get it wasn't mapped out like that because again, things were happening so quickly. There was just no who was going to be the person to kind of go back and audit that later. Oh, did you make sure that you gave your build back? Because it's just one out of could potentially be 20 people testing a game in a day.
Gotcha.
Who cares? Who cares if honestly, in some ways, if you think about it, it doesn't really matter if these boards didn't end up back in the company or whatever else, because was there really a time where I guess for games where people were like wanting to just steal these boards and then replicate, do all that? Because in today's society, right? Like everything data wise, anytime a company does something or whatever else, right? There's people like data mining all this stuff, and like they're always trying to grab things, but you don't have that. So in some ways, it just doesn't even matter if some of these prototypes didn't end up back in the hands of the company.
Yeah.
But even though it's like a legally binding, obviously a thing in most contracts, but still like.
Well, I mean, it's if I'm taking a board out of and I'm doing something with it that's not on the up and up, like even if I'm just keeping it for myself, right? I've stolen company property, right?
Yeah.
But on a very technical level. But I think it's funny how in a sense it's like a flip flop, because back then the boards, nobody would have cared about the boards. They would have cared about the data on the board, because it's like, hey, I can get this game before it's released and maybe go make a bootleg card of it, right? Because there was whole
well, that's why people get mad
overseas, right?
That's why people get mad. Like now, like with the ROMs, instead of play it, it's you need to dump that. Don't like grade it or encase it or preserve it or whatever else. That should be made available to everybody. I'm like, the game is made available to everybody.
Yeah.
Like, well, I mean, if you want the data, it's one thing, but like the game in and of itself is already made available for everybody. I think it's interesting from a historical perspective to be able to see like what changed. So as an example, two of the games that I had in that set of stuff that I bought. One was an early version of a Minnesota Fats game where the title was not only was the title different, it was like the Pool Legend versus the Pool Master, or Pool Master versus Pool Legend, but there was code that was definitely different. Like maybe the game was actually like redone a little bit. Gotcha.
But then there was also there was also a Chavez 2, where like it was an in-between, because that game was like, the Chavez 2 was like a conversion from another boxing game, and this was like right in the middle of it, so like the title screen looked different. It's kind of funny, it's got this big chunky looking Chavez, and he kind of like punches the screen a little bit, and it looks really awkward. But then there was another one was called Pinball Dream, they're not getting mixed up with Virtual Pinball Dreams. So Pinball Dreams exists on the Super Nintendo. It exists on, I think, the Game Gear. It was an Amiga game, I can't find any even rumor that it existed on Genesis. And then had 2 chips, and it was that game, basically looking like a finished product.
Cool.
And for some reason, just never launched, right? Yeah. So there could be you could make an argument back then, I guess, that like the data was what people might want, because they could then take that and they could go make a bootleg copy and sell that.
Exactly. And bootleg was a big industry.
Yeah. And it would be a bad look for Sega, right? Because if Sega's letting stuff out, get out, and it's buggy and crap, like that was the whole thing. That was the whole reason why the test department even existed at all, was because Sega was like, look, when we put this, there's no patching. You could rev, like we would sometimes rev a game. Like I remember testing a game called Solfease on the Sega CD, and it was like, did this game already come out? Like it was a pack-in game. Why are we testing this now? And it was like, oh, they found some bug in it, and they're going to make a new build. They're going to burn new discs and put that out. So we would sometimes get a game back into test that had already been checked, but it had somebody found something in it later. Okay, let's fix that now.
Similar to N64 with that wrestling game. That's why there's like a gray cartridge that's worth like $400+. It's because it was actually a game-breaking bug, and in order for people to actually just beat the game, they had to send in, I believe, their cartridge or something like that, and then they would get back. But like nobody did. I don't think a lot of people did it, so it's why the game is exceptionally rare. Like most people didn't care, but you also had to know that. I had no idea. Like, there's so many things about like retro games in general, right? That have those unique stories that you could only know about if you were like already in the deep end. Getting the Nintendo Power or because there was it wasn't like an email subscription service. It wasn't a Twitter account that would post something and say, do this in order to get this, right? It wasn't Instagram and like the constant news exposure that we have today, or even as simple as a patch, right? That's just downloaded online. Like these are things that people had to do in hand, which is why I think at the end of the day, like prototypes will have a point in time for like video game history where they will be selling for, you know, way more than like a sealed copy. And I think they should, you know, like
I agree.
The prototypes are basically what built the game, you know, and like a lot of people's favorite game. And so we've already seen some pretty crazy sales for some prototypes. So.
But I'd like to build more on the story. Because for people that want prototypes, I want to what was the mindset? Like, you know, people want to know from how they exist and how they were preserved. Like, So what was the mindset?
A lot of it's on accident.
So that's what I'm getting at. Okay, so a lot,
which is honestly the best thing, to be honest, because I think the accident is like, look, think of coins, right? That stuff was supposed to be used. The fact that it wasn't used, it's an accidental thing. Right, same thing.
Money's meant to be spent.
Money's meant to be spent. Comics are meant to be read. Right, trading cards are meant to be played. Sports cards are meant to be traded. Like there's a ton of options, like things.
So people
with it. But they're accidental. Yeah. Like it's an accident that you get a Mickey Mantle and a 10. Right.
Yeah, I don't like. Nobody was holding on. Like it's like sealed NES stuff, right? Very few people I think were holding on to that stuff because they're like, oh, in 40 years this is going to be worth $3 million. So people were holding on to these prototypes because they wanted it to have it to, you know, or they just grabbed it and forgot about it, right?
Yeah. That's what I'm wondering. Were they taking it like, oh, I want to play this game early before everyone? Or
we already were. They already
were.
Well, like here's so one of the things that was funny about that. Keep going back to this set of games I bought. There was Super Nintendo stuff in it, and I'm like, where did this come from? He's like, oh, I think I was friends with some people that happened to work for Nintendo. Maybe we were sending stuff back and forth.
Gotcha.
Okay, that probably shouldn't have been happening either. But I ended up with half a dozen Super Nintendo prototypes.
Yep. Okay,
so it was kind of like, oh, that's cool.
That's what I was trying to get at. Yeah, it's like, was it so mostly wasn't stolen? It seems like this was just like accident. You had it, you just forgot about it.
Well, none of them were going to be stolen in general. I don't think like any. It's like you're stealing nothing of value at the time. Well, like hindsight 2020, right? To us now, when you're looking back at it, you're like, oh yeah, these guys are stealing thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in boards. But like in the time, they're just useless like, you know, test cartridges basically.
I think there's maybe an angle to it as well where it's like the data could be relevant to another company if they got like some other company's code, like not even because it wasn't like, obviously it's compiled stuff, right? It's compiled, it's not like the actual code, but they could go back and kind of like see what was happening and kind of reverse engineer a technique or something like one of the things I remember distinctly was, and just to make one specific, like as an example, if a company had, let's say they were like, hey man, we need to know what Sega's up to. And we had a build of like the Adventures of Batman and Robin. I remember that game, the developers were on site for that game. So the producer, Bert Schroeder, was working with a company, I think they were eventually Left Field Production with their Clockwork Tortoise at the time. And he was like, these guys are great, but they're kind of, I don't know, he must have thought they were maybe a little bit scattered. So he was like, hey, I'm going to bring them in-house, and we're going to have them build a game. And so from one build to the next, you would go from having, a level that didn't exist to now it's there. And like overnight, the Cheshire Cat boss shows up. And we're like, what the fuck is this? Like, we never seen that, right? So if you went back to, if you followed that build process, you'd play a game, you play a version that didn't have something like that in it. Then you would play a version. Now here's this cool thing. Like, how did they do that, right? Yeah. And then they move on to the next thing. Next build. Here comes another, new level or something. So if a company was able to get a hold of a build somewhere in that process and be able to like, oh, I want to see how they did that technique or something, or evaluate like before it actually, was available, because the turnaround time from a game in development to a game that you could buy in the store was like 3 months. I think at the fastest. That's pretty fast. But I'm saying that's like if they're really going as fast as because you have to like print the card, you have to print the cards, you have to print the manuals, print the boxes, you have to get all this stuff approved. It all has to make trademarks and legal, and everything has to sign off, and then it actually has to go through that process, get manufactured, pieced together, put on pallets, shipped to stores, they have to get all the stuff that they need to get, to be able to promote it and sell it. So yeah, it was like, I think at the fast, because if a game was going to make Christmas, it had to be out of test in like late October, early November. Like if we got to Thanksgiving, there was absolutely no way so there was a sports game that missed. I can't remember which one it was. Maybe it was World Series baseball or something. It missed Christmas because there was too many bugs, and they were committed. They couldn't like not, they put all this money into developing it. They couldn't not ship it, but it shipped late because QA was, and so you QA, you're like the good guy and the bad guy. Like you absolutely necessary to the process, but everybody fucking hates your guts when you find a crash bug. Because first, like, well, how come you didn't find this before? Well, maybe it was there, we just didn't see it, or maybe it wasn't there. The developer, change something, and now the bug is there. It wasn't there before. It's not really our fault. We're not coding it. It's like if the waiter comes to your table and the food's too hot or too cold, you don't yell at the waiter. I mean, it's not going to be he made your meal. So we're beloved on one hand and like despised on the other hand. It was kind of like a weird position to be in because you're very, very important. And, again, Sega had this idea in their head. We don't want to have these games go out and we put our seal of quality on it, and then somebody runs into a problem and they have to return this game. Right? That's a financial, that crushes the finances for everybody, the seller, and then it makes them less willing to want to buy millions of other games from you because, now you're putting out shoddy stuff, right? We don't want to keep getting these returns. So it was important. I mean, that was at its peak. I know that department had we could do about 80 people a shift.
Oh wow!
And so during the holiday crunch, where a lot of people had overtime, and a lot of people were just being brought on as basically as just warm bodies, right? Like, hey, we need to be able to have these people come in, do this job for 6 months. Thank you for your time. Try us again, in another 6 months or a year. But
Testers?
There was you could have 200. I think we had I think we maxed out about 220 people in the department for a season, like at one time. And so you had to have a building that a space that was big enough to fit all those people. I have kind of like you can't see it, it's off camera, but I have basically what's a test setup. I'm trying to like basically recreate that. So I have like a PVM monitor. There was a VCR, and then you had to have your console plugged in. And if that was a Sega CD 32X, you had to have a big power strip and 5, 6 power items.
So the VCR was to show the bug, like tape the bug.
You had to, so you would record everything we did. We would record. Gotcha. So we'd be playing, we'd be recording. And if a bug happened, then you have a chance to like stop the tape, rewind, and see, what happened? Because sometimes you could tell, and sometimes you couldn't. Like there was a sequence of events that had to happen, and you had to like track down. It was like if you didn't know what caused it, you had to basically write this bug. And I have the document that was our bug writing guidelines. Like you have to say, start when I one time when I did this, these events, blah blah blah, this happened. This is not supposed to happen. This is what should happen. And you have to like, so we would spend a bunch of time playing, and then we'd have to go stop that and go into the lab, the computer lab, and go type out all the stuff that we had just found. Gotcha. And then that bug report would get sent off to the developers every day, and they would say, okay, here's 50 new bugs. Go through and fix these. And then we'd have to get a build back, and now go verify whether or not they fixed any of this stuff or if it's still happening. Yeah. So it was dude, I think about it, it's like I was there for less than 3 years, but like I felt like we played hard, believe me. We would fuck around Street Fighter machine in the background, in the break room, and we were very competitive, but at the end of the day we were also very like surprisingly responsible with our work, because we were trying to make sure that like we had, it's like your reputation is on the line as a tester, and you're trying to, there was only so many permanent positions in the group. We maybe added like 2 or 3 perms a year, maybe 4. Yeah. So it was like you had to really know your stuff and show that you were reliable and show that you were good at, and you could pick up new things and do other stuff. Otherwise, you were kind of not long for that, and it it ended up being different situation later because when Sony came into play, their office was in Foster City and Sega's office was in Redwood City, which is only one city away, basically. Yeah. So a bunch of people that were at Sega and weren't hired permanently ended up going to Sony when Sony started needing people. And they, half of Sony was basically ex-Sega people at one point in time. So, but yeah, I mean, it's nuts, man. I mean, it's funny, you guys touched on some stuff that reminded me of some stories, but like you mentioned N64, there was so one of my other jobs, or I could call it a job, I guess, it was a side hustle. My ex-wife actually started this. We were writing strategy guides. We were doing content for strategy guides. So you'll see my name on a handful of guides out there. Her name was Christine, and sometimes Watson, or sometimes Kane, depending on when we wrote them. But sometimes I got my name on the front too.
Do you have them?
I have some. She kept. Yeah, if I find them in the wild, I'll buy them.
The Joe Kane collection.
Yeah, exactly right. Buy Joe Kane for Joe Kane. So we were doing that too, and one of the guides we did was for an N64 game called Tonic Trouble, which is like kind of the precursor to Rayman. And it was an N64 game, and then the last build that they'd set, because what we would do is we'd write it and they would send us a cart at the end and say, verify this, basically the release, verify everything you've written against this game we've just given you. And I was playing Tonic Trouble, and I got to a certain point in the game, and it black screened, and I was like, "Well, that's weird. I wonder if I kicked the console. Like, did I, maybe, because even just somebody as simple as like rumbling the floor could jiggle the cart." And then, so I was like, "All right, let me try this again." So powered it off, powered back on, played through, and it black screens again. And I'm like, "Well, this isn't good." Yeah. So I called my contact at, I think it was Prima. And they were like, I was like, yeah, this game is crashing. And they're like, oh, okay, well, let me get back to you. I'll let you know when we get you a new build. And when they called me back, they're like, yeah, so it's going to take a minute. They actually had sent this cart off to print. Like, their QA department had passed that build for production. And they printed like 10,000 cartridges.
Ouch.
And when you print a cart, that's a mass ROM. You can't undo that, right? So they had to trash like 10,000 carts of Tonic
I wonder
Trouble.
if there's a cartridge out there that's
there might be. I mean, it's halfway through the game.
Wow.
And then it just breaks. But somebody got in some deep shit hot water
Christmas
for that
present. That's true coal right there with mom and dad getting a Christmas present and you can't even finish the game.
Yeah. No, I think they recalled. I hope they did, but it was funny that I'm like, why am I the one finding this, right? I'm the fucking strategy guide guy. I'm not the QA guy. I'm like, what kind of controls is their QA going through right now that they slipped this?
That's crazy.
It was. So I mean, you always ran that risk. There was a game we were testing at Sega where the producer, I had written a bug that said there was a massive bug in this game. It was a Dracula game for the Game Gear. You could do a thing where if you got hit a certain way on your last bit of health, if you got knocked off screen, you would stay alive and you'd be invincible. And I was like, yeah, that's a bad bug.
That's
and the
producer, dude.
The producer was like, oh, that's not that big of a deal. And then somebody else found out about it. They were like, yeah, that is a fucking big deal. They made us go back and fix that and redo that.
That's crazy.
He was going to pass it. He was going to pass it. And they were like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So it's just like funny how, but it's always like that thing where it's like right at the end, right, of the cycle. Everybody's like chopping at the bit. They got to get this game out. They want to, because the bonus structure for the producers was based on how well their games would sell.
Gotcha.
Now here's the other secret of Sega stuff that a lot of people don't necessarily know, but I have told this story before. The bonus packages, it was based on sales, right? But of stuff that Sega of America made, not Sega of Japan games that got pushed out under, SOA, right? So if we got, like, when Streets of Rage 3 came in, Bare Knuckle 3 became Streets of Rage 3, Sega of America didn't get anything, depending on how that game did, because that was Japan's game. But our games, like Eternal Champions or, say, Ecco the Dolphin, shout out.
Yeah.
Ecco, like when that game sold really well, then the producer Ed he got bonuses, right, based on that. But So a game like Gunstar Heroes, why people look at Gunstar Heroes and go, why did that game have such a shitty cover? And how come they didn't like advertise it? Because nobody at Sega of America was going to get paid more if it did well. That's why. Yeah. That's exactly why. It was like SOJ's game, and there was this whole I feel it's funny because I have heard some people tell the truth about this, which is that SOA and SOJ did not get along. It just didn't. It was competition. It was like they wanted us to do things more like their way, and we were like, hey, our way is better, right?
But it's like interesting you're making your own different games. Like you think it'd all be like one place making games, not two different.
Well, setups. I mean, there was some like crossover, like with I know Kalinsky has told stories about like Sonic 2 and how like I think Sonic 3, I think Knuckles the Echidna was like his idea or something like that. So I mean, there was some collaboration. It wasn't all hate, but it was definitely like Sega Japan was looking at us like, what are you guys doing? Like this is how you don't build a game like that. You build a game like this, right? And they I think demonstrated over and over that they really like understood the craft of game building.
You think they were
better than we did. Oh, absolutely, dude. Every time a game from SOJ came in the department, like freaking Gunstar Heroes, Dynamite Heady, Ranger X, you name it. Like all these games would come in and they'd be like super clean, super fast. Like the only thing we'd really have to test for almost exclusively was just text stuff. Like translation issues. Like Final Fight Sega CD, dude. When that came in, we were like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like we felt like we were just playing an arcade game.
Yeah.
Like it was that good. And it was like just little stuff. Like, oh, there's a sequence at the beginning where a knife hits the table. Like it's an animation of a knife being thrown on the table. We're like, yeah, it's missing a sound effect. Next build, boom, there's a sound effect. Like they were on top of it. And they like almost everything they did, we just like would never find like significant bugs. Now they had already done their own QA pass, right? Because these games were released in Japan already.
Gotcha.
But like they had it buttoned up. This is the hardest thing. The hardest thing about doing the SOJ SOA relationship with respect to QA was when we had to send them the final test report. Because when we would sign off on something and then we'd have to send that off to SOJ to prove that we were done with our process. I don't know why this was how this worked, but sending that final test report was a pain in the ass because we had a fax machine and you had to send a fax of like 180 to 120 pages.
Oh my god.
They wouldn't accept broken faxes. Like if it busted halfway through, they would not accept a partial. You couldn't go, oh, I got to page 12 on this one. Now let me start from page 13. No. Yeah. You had to get the whole thing in one shot. So
they sound like the government. The government does that.
We would be sitting there babysitting and panicking, right? Because you got to know the ins and outs of this fax machine really well because you were like, okay, I've got a stack. I'm gonna fan it out just so and kind of get that first page in, but I can't walk away because if at some point it doesn't catch the next page, I got to be right there to, manually force it in there. Dude, I mean, nothing felt worse than having a 90-page test report that broke on page 53, and you're like, because it's like 45 seconds each page, and you're just like, I just want to go home, right? Yeah. Yes, I'm getting paid overtime to sit here and babysit this fucking fax machine, but I want to be done. I want to. Yeah. And it's funny to me that back then, when I finished work at Sega, I wanted to go home and play video games. Like I would work all day, and then I'd go home and I'd play like Super Metroid till like 4 a.m.
That's crazy.
5 a.m. Like I was like, oh my god, I can finally go home and play a game I want to play.
Yeah.
Like nowadays, I can't even find time. All I play is chess because it's like the lowest touch. Like I can just get in and out, no problem. Yep. But like the idea of like sitting down and hooking up a console and spending hours, like I've got so many things. My attention is split so many different ways. Like the idea of like sitting down and just playing games for multiple hours a day. Oh my god! Like there's a part of me that's like I wish I could still, be like that and like kind of have that.
We were just talking about that.
Make that a priority, right? Like
that's
that was
why
the
I
priority
think
of life.
The two things for games at this point, at least it'll probably be for as the generations get older now, like kind of a new gen thing, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But the two times we will play games the most is obviously when we're kids and kind of teens. and then when we're in a nursing home. I think, dude, I legitimately think that the nursing home, when it gets to like our age, you know, being in there, like it will be stacked with like GameCubes, Mario Kart doubled, you know, like Mario Kart N64. Like it will all be retro style because everybody will be wanting to play like Smash Bros, like all the Mario Party games and Mario Kart and things like that. Like I just think nursing homes are going to be essentially arcade.
I hope
businesses,
so,
man.
Well,
God, I hope so.
Remember,
they need to be.
You remember, I used to run a nursing home. We used to do Wii
bowling.
Wii bowling. Wii was like a big game. But
Wii's the least like intensive type of game, but Mario Kart and stuff is as well. I just think like
Wii was for to get the moving was the concept.
Yeah. Well, the one I don't know any of the other places she was staying, but the first independent living facility that we moved my mom into back in 2017, they had a Wii, and they had Wii bowling nights. Consistently, and those people were serious, man. They were like, and it's funny because I have a different perspective on it too, because when I worked for EA for 8+ years, but for all of it was for Pogo.com, and Pogo.com was a casual site, and you know a lot of that audience. When I first got there, the audience was, you know, split, right, but largely 35 to the biggest demographic group, 35 to 55 female. That was over 70% of Pogo's audience. And that audience did nothing but age up, right? Like the average age now is much higher because they're not getting, I mean, I'm sure they're getting new people subscribing, but just not nearly at the rate that they were at one point. So like that audience is doing nothing but getting older. So like the average age for that audience now is probably got to be like 45 to 75. And this is what people do. Like that is their, you know, their escape or their entertainment, you know, between, like, we had this one lady come in and she was telling us how her day went. She was like, like over the course of a day, she basically played like 8 to 10 hours on Pogo, but she broke it up between like other stuff. She's like, I'd get up and I have my breakfast, and then I sit down and I play Pogo for an hour or two, and then I get up and I take a little bit, you know, of a break. I have a snack and I go do some gardening, and then I come back and I play Pogo for another 2 or 3 hours. Like she would break up her day with other little things, but then always come back to Pogo and play for hours and hours. Like at one point in time, the average, there was a stat. This was way before we had, I think, the massive audience that we ended up with, but they said that and it's hard to gauge if it was inactivity counted in this too. The average playtime, for a day was 4 hours.
Wow.
So I'm like, you want to talk to me about hardcore gaming, right?
Yeah.
Like
there's
a lot of hardcore grandmas on Pogo, just like that was because that was their jam, right? And they had chat, so they made friends. It became a social thing. Like that was their outlet. And we actually had, I remember this one lady wrote in and she was like, because we had over time they increased it was a subscription service, and like $20 a year, which was nothing. And then it's like it went up to like 30, and then it went up to like 40, and then we got this letter from this little lady who was like, I'm on a fixed income and I have Social Security, and I you guys $10 more a month, it makes it so that I might not be able to afford this, and this is my outlet, this is my window to the world. So it was a crazy like realization for me that there are people out there, and like gaming is not just an escape, it's their only they're homebound, they can't get out. They have this is the only thing that they have that allows them to interact with anybody else in a meaningful way.
Well, we're seeing it with quadriplegics too. If you watch TikTok, or there's like quadriplegics, they play games all day.
Right,
Like they have a Pro controller, like
I think that's fascinating. That's like amazing to me. That but isn't it so funny that the desire to play video games, escape in that way, right? Have that experience is so strong that somebody could say, I want to do this, and somebody else will say, okay, I'll find a way to make it so that you can, right? We will build technology that will allow you to play. And like, it's funny how that,
going to be even cooler for them.
That's what I mean. Is like, VR is going to make basically for anybody who's not able to do something in a specific, real world situation or whatever, they can live it out in VR. But yeah, it's like that's what makes games unique, is the kind of world building aspect for a lot of people, and the connection for the different communities around it, right?
Yeah.
But even more so, I think, like the whole prototype aspect and promos or whatever else you want to call it, those are the foundational blocks for the rest of the hobby, because it shows the amount of work that these companies and individuals within that companies put in to the entirety of like the game, right? And that's why I think prototypes should be valued more, from that aspect. I said this as I said earlier, but it's like, it's the blueprint that you have for this game, right? Like it's a blueprint that you have for just the amount of blood, sweat, and tears people put in to bring that franchise to life, right? Like Sonic and Mario. And that's why, like, obviously there's going to be some prototypes for some games that are going to sell, 100 times more than, kind of your lower end stuff, but it doesn't devalue the fact that they all have essentially the same kind of baseline, which is just the people that have put the time in to make it work, right? And even testers, not just coders and other thing, but testers, right? Anybody who touched that game to make it presentable is there's a value to that, It's a little bit different now because the developing and the testing is just, at least the mindset from a consumer standpoint is, get whatever you can out, we'll fix it later, right? And then the patch notes and all that stuff come from the downloads that you do from like online and stuff, and then the developers and stuff get kind of dragged down into the mud, because then it's like, oh, these people don't care, and it's like, I don't think that there's any developer or tester who's working on a game that doesn't care about what they're trying to do, but what they're pigeon-tied to is what the higher ups want, right? Like that's kind of more of the issue with a lot of these companies, is just what the decisions are from the board and the presidents or managers or whatever else, right? And then it just trickles down.
Well, it's what Steve Jobs said. He says sales and marketing make all the decisions. And they don't care about he said they don't care about the actual product. They just care about money.
I mean, so it's funny because I do remember a point in time, and there's at Pogo specifically, and there was a lady there. I love her. She was great. Her name was Mary, and but she was on this. I think that we had like this weird. It was a dichotomy of thought, because it was like, well, should marketing drive product, or should product drive marketing? Right? Like, is marketing there to support product, or is marketing there to tell product what to make? Because they know what they can sell, right? So I think her stance was, look, I know I can sell this, but you guys aren't making this. If you make this thing, I can't sell that as easily as if you make this other thing. So it like made her job harder to because she had targets, and she had in order to make her numbers right, she had to sell what we were making, and she's like, well, I can't sell that, so I can't make my numbers the way that I've been asked to. And so there, at some point, there had to be like somebody at the top had to kind of come in and say, okay, this is how it's going to be, and we will just have to like adjust how we look at these things, because product leads. Like, product has to lead. And I think that there's like now I think you talk about turning the apple cart. Like, I think today that's maybe different. I think maybe today the thought process is probably more that marketing should lead, because they are the ones who have to actually like go out there and make that thing stick, right? And they're going to be there. They know best what social media is, wants, and how to frame this thing that you're doing and make it something that's desirable to people. Because at the end of the day, money has to be. That's why. I mean, why are these layoffs happening, right?
But I think the concept they're saying is like long term. Like, Steve Jobs talking about like to make a decade long company. He's saying to make innovation. He's talking about like a product that innovates and changes everyone. It's kind of what he's talking about over just like. But I get why most people focus on money. Like,
But that's the thing. That's institutional money, right? That's like, so if you imagine, right, Pac Bell back in the day, they had before it was AT&T, it was Pac Bell, and they had a lab, and that lab, those people that worked in that lab did work, right? They experimented and they tried things, and half of that shit probably never saw the light of day, or if it did, it was in like some weird little like a nugget of some piece of technology that you don't even know exists, right? It's like something that helps a router talk to a server or something. You know, it's like there's these things that nobody sees, but then there's the bigger, the inventions, like, oh, this is, microwave, radio, whatever it is, right? Like they come up with something that now redefines how we do things, right? But that takes so much time. And nobody's that patient in gaming. Nobody's that patient, except maybe Steam. Because why? Because they have all the money in the world and they can do whatever the fuck they want.
Well, and they're going to make more money. I was to say they're going to make more money by not putting money into manufacturing for physical media, right? Like it's
well, I mean
that's
always been that way. But I'm just saying, so when I played, so you talk about VR. When I played. And of course, you're talking to the same guy who thought like a cell phone camera was a stupid idea. Well, I was proven wrong because that's very useful. But I didn't understand VR, and I thought this is a dumb idea. Who's gonna use this? It's too much trouble. You're not going to use it out in the real world because who's going to have a headset on their head and on a train and then get robbed? Or, I mean, there's just so many ideas that just it seems dumb to me. But when I played Half-Life Alyx, I was like, oh, I fucking get it now. Like,
yeah, I use VR too.
It's such and to me, that's the standard. Like, that is the bar that any experience would have to reach in VR to be like. My kids were playing like they were messing with like a VR room, rec room or something, and he was having fun with it. But that wasn't like, oh, I need to go back and play that. I got scared shitless playing Half-Life Alyx to the point where I was like. I'm like, I can't. I see the body hanging with the light on it, and I know something's gonna come out and attack my ass. I'm like, dude, I can't do it. I had to have my son do it for me because I was too scared. Well, I was like, this is so intense, like it was a total.
Yeah,
that redefined that experience for me. Like, what?
Well, we kept thinking we're playing 3D gaming. You're like, oh, when I play an Xbox, it's 3D gaming, and then you put on VR gaming. You're like, oh, this is 3D gaming. You don't realize it takes two visions with a curve. The curve makes the 3D, and once you have that, you're like, oh, I get it.
Yeah, it totally feels 100% different. I mean, people have been the promise of VR has been around forever. I mean, there was 3D glasses for the Vectrex.
Yeah. But it wasn't
VR for the Genesis.
It wasn't adaptable. Like, people were ahead of the time because of like the technology was there, but it wasn't there at the same time, and the price points were like horrible. Because like I know some VR, because the Virtual Boy for like the Nintendo, right? Yeah. Like there were some plans to, okay, we can make this happen, but then when it came to the actual like cost aspect, it was way too much. Like it wasn't like, oh, this is what every family is going to buy. And I think that the interest wasn't there yet. But now you're at a place where the technology is, like 100 times better. Right? Like you can cut costs, you can figure out those things to work, right? And obviously we're seeing that more with like AI and stuff like that, which should help in the long run on stuff.
But I think we're still a little ahead though, because it's not. I just haven't felt like VR is really like mass market.
It's too heavy.
It's not yet. Still.
I mean, but this is the thing. People still have to invest in it, right? People are still trying to make it work, and I salute them for doing that, right? Like to your point. Anybody who puts their energy and effort into making games, I salute them. Not everybody does it well, and not everybody does it for the right reasons. But I mean, to your point, like I don't think people are there just like, oh, we gotta. I mean, some people are definitely phoning it in, and some people are definitely getting. There are some people that are out there and they're hitting the jackpot on some crappy concept just because it happened to be the right place, right time.
Yeah.
But by and large, like. Look, if from a career standpoint, right? I've been doing this for so I started Sega September of 1992. So it is now July of 26. So I'm getting on 34 years now.
Yeah.
Monty wasn't, I don't know, Rainier wasn't even born. Okay.
I was 1 year later. 1 year later.
So, but what I'll say is this: like, if I was in this business for the riches, I've gotten the wrong business. Like, I am not, like independently wealthy and like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm well, yeah, right, yeah. We'll see.
Games,
right?
games are in a different Games are in a different place.
Yeah, and
how big they are.
And I'm excited to try something different, right? I mean, it's not that I have any hate for games or the industry at all. It's just that, like, I'm in this place now where it's like, okay, so my company that I was working with for 8+ years, contiguous, most recently, we just, they just decided, okay, it's not working. We can't do this anymore. So now I'm underemployed, unemployed, and I'm like looking around, and I feel like I have to go back to the drawing board and convince people, like, I know what I'm doing. Right, I've been doing this for 33+ years.
Why not sell games?
Well, yeah, right. I mean, that's kind of. I'm at that point where it's sort of like, that's been my side hustle, sort of fun project thing, and now it's like, hey, maybe I can make that into something, right? Because I enjoy it. Not to say I enjoy it so much more, but I'm just like the aspect of connecting people with the thing that they love, and it's so quick to do it.
Yep.
And the turnaround time on that is so fast. Like, I'm happy for the people that there are some people that I talk to, almost nobody knows what fuck Pogo is. I talk to some people I work at Pogo, like, what the fuck is that? But there's some people who know it, and they're like, oh, I love that. I used to play with my grandmother or whatever. And like that, some people have been impacted positively by the work that I've done, and I'm happy for that, right? I'm happy for that. But it's hard to see that. But when you're at a convention and somebody buys, so I had this really cool experience at the show I just did last weekend. So Ed Annunziata, who I'm friends with, the creator of Ecco the Dolphin, he had signed. I had him sign stuff because it's just cool to be able to say, Ed, sign this, right? And if I'm selling something signed, it's one thing. If he signs it for you, he'll sign it for free. He doesn't even want money for that. But he took I had a kind of a rougher copy of Echo case and cart. That was it, no manual. Ed signed the cart, and then he took the cart out and he wrote a message where the cart goes. And this kid came by, and he like looked at two things. Echo was one, and some other thing. He's like, "Do you have any other Genesis games?" I'm like, "No, not really." So he eventually came back, and he might have been on the spectrum. I'm not really sure. Maybe he was just socially awkward. I don't know, but he bought the game. And I was kind of excited to have him buy the game without looking at inside, because I was like, I said, there's something special inside there. He said, what is it? And he said, open it up. And he pops it open, and he could see the card. I said, it's signed by the guy who made the game. I said, then pull the cartridge out. And Ed's message, and I think I might have taken a picture. I hope I did. It's in my phone somewhere. But Ed's tagline for Echo is, the world needs Ecco the Dolphin. And he wrote that inside the cartridge, inside the case. So that is the only copy in the world that was like that. And I sold it to the kid for like $15.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I don't need the money.
Yeah.
Right? But to have a moment for him where he was like, he said, it was funny how he said it, because he was not like, all starry-eyed or whatever, but he was like, wow, I got this for $15 and it's the only one that's like that? Oh, that's really cool. And then he walked off, right? So it was cool to have that moment where, it's not always about like eking out every cent from something, right? Like I want to be able to have that impact on somebody. And the biggest compliment I ever get at the shows that I do is like, oh, I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
That to me, because I'm like, dude, I call it squirrel disease, because I'm like, Doug the dog and Up, I see something, squirrel, it's like, if I see it, I don't even know half the time what I want, what I'm looking for. But when I see it, I'm like, oh, that's it, right? Like, when my son and I did a week's drive up to Pacific Northwest, and we stopped by and said hi to our esteemed colleague over here. And, one of the things we were doing while we were driving was stopping at like, not flea markets, but stopping at thrift shops and Chosky's, whatever. Game store, but also like just like collectible stores, right?
Yeah.
And finding just random stuff. And like there was one specific thing that I had. There was like a Pac-Man lunchbox.
Yeah.
I didn't even care what the price was. I was like, I'm not going to sit there and like look. Some stuff, yeah, okay, I'll look on my phone. Is it worth it? Whatever. I'm like $75 for a Pac-Man lunchbox with the thermos, and it's not all rusted. I was like, fuck it, just get it. Because like, where am I going to find stuff like that, right? I went to the game store, Laughing Crow Collectibles, over in about an hour away from me, and I went in. They had a skate deck that was Chun-Li, and it's just a cool ass skate deck.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck yeah, I'll buy that, right? Like,
it's not
even. Sometimes it's just for show. Like so I will sell most everything that I have, but sometimes it's just for show. The saddest thing that I have to do is when somebody comes and asks me, "Will you sell that?" And I'm like, "No," because it's something that like I only have one of, and it's there for show. It's there to get eyes, but it's not something I actually want to sell. I have this. You guys know Tronbot, right? The Servbots. So I have a Servbot towel. It's got the Servbot happy face on one side and the sort of like wiggly mouth sad face on the other side, and I just put it up over the cage. So it's like, hey, if you know what this is, you'll come check it out. And some guy asked me how much for it. I said, oh man, I can't sell that. It's the last one I have. I had two. I traded one to another guy for something, but I want to keep that last one. But it's so cool. I want to show it. And so it sucks to disappoint somebody when they want to buy something, and I'm like, yeah. That's my keeper. Like my guy that I was doing the booth with has a Gengar statue, and that's not for sale either. Yeah. But it's a conversation starter, and I try to. I hope that the saying "I can't sell it to you" doesn't end the conversation. It's like, I appreciate that you appreciate that.
It's a free. You're giving them a free museum.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
For free. Yeah. They should be happy.
I love doing it too, because it's like it's a chance to actually cross paths with people, and you never know the connections you're going to make. Yeah. Right. I haven't really done that too much on the sales side of stuff, but I've definitely had people come by, and they seek me out now. Like, they know I'm at a show. They come, hey man, what do you got this time? What do you have that I didn't see last time? Yeah. And you start to make connections, and you never know where that's gonna take you. And I'm kind of that guy. It's funny because you guys had Greg on. And sometimes, he's given me shit in the past a little bit, like kind of jabbing, but not like super serious. But like, man, you don't really go through a lot of. Well, it's like you go through a lot of
scandal that we need.
Yeah. No, I go through a lot of trouble. Like, I go through a lot of hoops. I'll jump through a lot of hoops to get people hooked up with stuff. So for example, people thought that Doom case, that case of Doom for Super Nintendo that showed up on Facebook. It was on Facebook. It was on eBay. Yeah. Everybody thought that was bullshit.
Yeah.
And I went and I was like, I contacted the kid, and I was like, turned out to be a younger guy. I contacted him. I was like, hey, what's the deal with this? And he lived about an hour away, and I went and said, okay, can we meet up and I can see it in person? Yeah. And he said, sure. So we did, and I was able to make that deal happen because I actually went through the trouble of not just saying, oh, it's bullshit, and just forgetting, say fuck it, forget about it, this guy's. But it just so happened he was close. Like, if he was any further away, it never would have happened. But it just so happened. And then the same thing happened with the case packs of Rystar. The guy that put those case packs of Rystar on Reddit, everybody said, "Oh, that's bullshit. There's no way." And then it was actually Wade who reached out to me and was like, because I happened to just by happenstance bought something on eBay from this guy, and I was like, "Do you have anything else?" And he sent me a picture, and I'm like, "Oh, you're the Reddit guy." Because I could see the case. I'm like, oh, you're the Reddit guy. He's like, yeah. No, everybody thinks I'm full of crap. I'm like, well, let's meet up. And so we did, and I saw him. And then a little bit later, Wade was like, hey, what's the deal with this Rystar guy? And we got that deal hooked up. Wow. So if I just kind of turned a blind eye, obviously I'm not going to see everything. And some stuff is probably bullshit. But it doesn't hurt to ask, and it doesn't hurt to just go meet up with somebody and be like, okay, what's the deal? Get to the bottom of the story. And so I'm willing to do that. It's not, it's sometimes it can be inconvenient. Yeah, sometimes it's a little bit of a drive or a hike or whatever, and maybe it doesn't turn into anything. But the two times I've done it, it has turned into something. So my buddy who used to work for Sega, he had the master discs for a game called Sacred Pools, which was. Nobody knew what it was. It had been rumored to exist, and he had the discs, and he was like, I want to do something with this. I'm like, well, let's see if we can contact somebody. I knew what Hidden Palace was. I knew what the cutting room floor was, and we just contacted Hidden Palace. They were like, oh yeah, this is really cool. We'd love to to do something with that. So I helped get that to happen. And then the other one that I really want to get done, which I'm still working on, is the MC Hammer game for Sega CD that never released.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's the title of it. The working title was Hammer versus Evil D in Soulfire, and it's one of the worst games.
So you're trying to get like a prototype of it?
Somebody, we tested it, and somebody's got a disc somewhere. I believe one person we know for sure has it. It's just a question of, can we get him to go dig through his stuff and find it? But another couple people may have a copy. So I really want to get that one salvaged, because there's like 11 seconds of footage of it on like YouTube somewhere.
Wow.
And then some guy who was in the mastering lab for ImageSoft like put up a website and put he had build files for the animations, but not the actual game.
Gotcha.
I want people to actually be able to experience that game.
Well, and that's what makes it
live the pain that we lived.
It's not just the pain, but it's like, this is a game that was supposed to be released that had plans. It's like California Raisins for the NES. There was that game also that was supposed to come out, never did. And there was a guy who found that story is crazy. The guy found the ROM. He got offered a ton of money back in the day, and then he didn't sell it or anything like that. Then he dumped the ROM for people to have. Then I think a company made, sort of like LRG and stuff, made a certain amount of them for repro for people to have and play and experience the game, right? But the guy who had the game originally, his apartment got set on fire by two people who had just finished that. What was the movie with Woody Harrelson back in the 90s? Why am I blanking on the name?
White Man Can't Jump?
No, it was No, it was the this is gonna hold on one second.
Woody Harrelson. Kingpin?
That's what I already said.
It was one of his early. It was one of his early. It was a super controversial movie too, because it was about two people who were
Natural Born Killers.
Natural Born Killers. Yeah. Two people he had roommates, and the two people that burned his apartment down watched that movie, and they're like, "Yeah, this inspired us." So they burned his apartment and killed him.
Wow.
And the guy who had this California Raisins NES card, and this guy who had been doing, because there's some people you can still find a lot of info on, right? And there's some prototype people who still have are still finding stuff out today, right? And this guy he went through all these different channels to try and track down the guy, and his mom told him this whole story. This guy who had this NES California Raisins prototype cart that was made, but then they axed it because they axed the game because the California Raisins popularity was dying out during the time, and so then they just decided to scrap the whole game. But there's similar they were pretty much near done with the game. And so it's out there. And so in the end, that's just what makes games unique and trying to get it out. I have a item sort of like that with the VidPro card. It's called, I think it's Nightmare Creatures or whatever. They have it for PS1, but it was never released on PS1. It was only Sega. And so it's that's just a unique piece to have.
Yeah. Because
it was supposed to be released for PlayStation, but it never was. For sure. And you just have this, but they made a VidPro card for it.
Yeah.
And
that's
so it's or not Nightmare Creatures. No, not Nightmare Creatures. Hold on, wait.
You mean Nightmare Circus?
No. It's not Nightmare Creatures. What the frick was it?
Look at him, disappears. Boom, magic.
I have the VidPro card.
Technology.
Creature Shock. That's what it was.
Okay.
Background.
Yeah. Okay.
But
that's like a cool cover.
So Creature Shock is what it was. It was only on Sega. God, I forgot. Nightmare Creatures was on PS1. I knew as soon as I said it, I was like, wait a minute.
I was going to say, I was like, wait a minute.
But no, Creature Shock
3DO.
was only on Sega. It was, or 3DO. Was it only 3DO? I think it was Sega and 3DO. It says
Creature Shock is a 1994 sci-fi video game developed by Argonaut Software and published by Virgin Interactive, intended for MS-DOS and 3DO.
I guess it wasn't. Okay, I guess it wasn't Sega.
Oh, the game was later ported to CDI, Sega Saturn, and PlayStation.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it was going to be on PlayStation, but it didn't.
There's also a famous game, I think, with Eminem. I've seen it on Instagram.
Yeah.
There's like an unreleased Eminem game like that.
Eminem the rapper.
I think I think they found they. I think.
There was
Isn't the prototype of that? Isn't there like a cartridge or whatever that's coming up for auction or something?
What is it, like a
is it coming up for auction now?
I think so. Is it not?
Or
is it just a rumor? I've seen it.
What the hell? What is this?
I don't know.
Well, there was one. So I mentioned make my video games at one point earlier. There was a Prince one that was supposed to happen that never came out.
Dude, that would have been.
And I don't know. I don't remember if it was like just rumored or if we actually. I feel like we actually tested it, but it was like very, very brief. Like Prince, and so there was all sorts of stuff that happened even back in the early '90s with like rights holders and things, because digital media was becoming. It was like a new frontier, right? So I know somewhere there exists builds of Batman Returns for the Sega CD, where when you died, you would, or when you failed or you lost a life or whatever, and you were out, you could continue. And they had 3 different screens, one of which they had one that was Batman, they had one that was Catwoman, they had one that was the Penguin. And in the final version of the game, there's only the Penguin screen. Every time you lose, you just see the Penguin. He says, "You don't really think you win, do you?" And then that's it. But there was also the Catwoman and Batman screens. They were in the game. We saw them. And then it turned out that Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Keaton would not give their permission to have their likenesses used in the game, because they were like, "Hey, we're supposed to get paid extra for that," and they wanted more money. And Danny DeVito was like, "Fuck it," so they kept the Penguin. But I know there's got to be a build somewhere that has Michael Keaton's image.
Okay, so I'm not done with this accidental story. Like, how do you the conception is with everyone with prototypes, there's always stolen. Like, someone stole it, they took it. So you're saying it's mostly accidental. So how do you accidentally get you work, you're doing your job, you're playing a game, you need your thing at work. How does it accidentally end up at your house?
I think it was more of like, it could be accidental or it could be intentional. Somebody wanted to keep it so they could have, a copy because they didn't want to spend the money later to play the thing, right? Like, I have a buddy who has a binder full of discs, but it was so easy to make them too. One of my friends had a burned copy of Panzer Dragoon Saga on Sega Silver Media, and he had just asked because his buddy worked in the burn lab, and he's like, "Hey man, I want to play this game, but I don't want to pay for it." Even back when it was cheap or cheaper, he didn't want to pay for it. It's like, "Hey, can you make me a build?" And he just made him a set of discs. And then some guy, I happened to have them, and some guy came to a show, PRGE, and was like, "Hey, do you happen to have Panzer Dragoon Saga?" I was like, "I'm asking everybody, nobody has it." I'm like, "Oh, let me do one better. Here's this burned set of discs from Inside Sega." And he was like freaked out, and he ended up buying them. But it was like, yeah, so sometimes people, I think, wanted to have a copy, and sometimes they just were like, it's just a thing to do, right? We had access. But, I also have heard a story where one of the guys, Bert Schroeder, who I mentioned before, he was telling me, I was like, "Hey, do you have any old stuff?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, one day my daughter and I got bored. We took a big box of boards out in the backyard and threw them against the wall and watched them smash." I was like, "Bro, are you crazy? What are you talking about? Like, how could you, like, how could you do that to me in the past without knowing that I would want them in the future?"
Exactly.
Like, people literally thought they were junk.
Yeah.
Another friend of mine who also worked for Sega,
accidental.
Same thing. He was like, "Yeah, I had that a while ago." He's like, his wife's son would be interested in him, and he didn't give a shit, so they just chucked them. They just threw them out.
Wow.
That's why
and it's like,
before a certain amount of time period, like let's say, I don't know, 2010, is going to always, in my eyes, have way more collectability and like coolness factor to it than anything later.
Yeah.
Because I maybe you could make the argument that anything pre-COVID, because what happened during COVID, right, was all of a sudden actual value numbers started getting attached to these items. So then what does everybody do? They start like hoarding this stuff. They'll go to GameStop dumpster diving is a huge thing on YouTube, or like not just GameStop, but Walmart, anything. And they're always specifically looking for anything games or card related, right? and GameStop employees who like work there, they'll get promo items and they'll keep it for themselves and they won't give it to somebody who comes in, right? Like the game has changed from back then because there was no value in anything. That's why organically it's better to have than something that you know is being hoarded for like the last 6, well, I would even say 10 years by a lot of these people, because values are now starting to get assigned to them. And it's like, people, like when the Pokemon first partners thing dropped, or it was the Pokemon X Target crossover, people were stealing the signs and like the promo displays and throwing up on eBay, and they were selling for like $1,000. Like that's the type of thing that we're in. Like I don't really know if that's going to happen so much for games, but it happened sort of with the Mario and the Kirby stuff that they did with Switch during like COVID, right? Like the Mario stripper pole is what I call it, but that thing was getting taken out of places and selling for 10 grand right on the spot, right? Like it is the industry is just so much different. And that's kind of what I say is you've worked in both, you know, cartridge and disc era, you know, both retro and modern with like EA, because you worked during EA, what, 2011 through like 2015, I believe, right?
2004 to 2011, and then again from 2016 to 2018.
Yeah. Okay. And so I was going to say, like, do you think, what's the difference in company structure, I guess, for like, has it changed for how they do like the testing and the proto stuff, or is it all similar? Like, is there going to be more modern style or less than there is like that type of, like, how do you view the two different eras between more of the disc based versus like cardboard cartridge era?
Well, I think it's obviously very, you know, system dependent, right? Like, I mean, Nintendo is probably the only company that's doing like cartridges of any sort. Like they're just SD cards, right?
But it's like modern. So, well, like what would those prototype boards look like necessarily? I guess is it going to be on a disc mainly? Are they testing on a disc that goes it, or that's kind of what
I mean, for disc-based stuff, it has to be, because you don't. You can't emulate a CD drive, but they don't do that. I mean, everything's, because as much as possible, you want to test on actual hardware. Yeah. To make sure that everything's compatible. Actually, one of the pages in the testing book that I have mentions every revision of Sega Genesis and Sega CD hardware, and says make sure you test these all together, right? Every combination, to make sure that it all works. You know, I don't know what modern like testing is like for, you know, if Sony or Microsoft have weird differences that have to be accounted for between the various models of their consoles, right? It's not a simple kind of math anymore with that stuff, I don't think. So I suspect, though, that they probably try to test on real hardware as much as possible. I mean, sometimes we have to test on, like, I remember for Game Gear, we had an actual like board that you could have AV out to the TV set. But that was like you couldn't final something. You had to final something on real hardware. So I think as much as possible they're gonna stick that. That's probably not gonna. I don't think that would change. If it did, I think that would be unwise, because then you've got too many variables. But again, also patching, whatever patching is now, like that could be, you know, they could probably fix anything.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is like,
say download this thing and who cares, right? So
is modern going to be, in a way, from a prototype standpoint, rare in the fact that like they're going to have less because they can just patch it down the line?
Well, they have more.
That's kind of the thing.
They have more controls over that stuff now too. I'm sure that stuff is way more buttoned down, and I think what would be rare would be the hardware than the software, right? Because they're only going to have as much. Yeah. They're going to have way
like Wii and 360 stuff come out. So yeah.
The Dolphin. Somebody was it Odin had the Dolphin for like that thing looks crazy, man. I was like, wow. I had a nitro burner at one point. Was like for the DS carts. That was a cool piece, but like but you can't use it really modern day. Like what are you going to do with it? Like you're really going to go set up an old computer and like get the who even knows what the software is.
You got to find the dev kits that work specifically to like a game like Mario Bros. Or Halo 3. Imagine owning the dev kit that touched Halo, like that type of stuff. But it's I don't know. Dev kits are an interesting part of it, but they don't interest me the way that like prototypes do, because I think it's a displayability thing as well. And like, I don't. For me, from a prototype standpoint, I don't really care if it's first board or second board or what the revision is. For me, it's just more of like having it.
Isn't it very enough just to find a board?
I mean, that's what I mean. It's hard to find any board whatsoever. It's hard to find even prototype discs.
I've seen some on like there. I bought one on, I think it was Golden a while back. I bought like there was like NBA, or no, it was baseball, or it was hockey, like a hockey game. It was like the sealed hockey game, which was kind of crushed up, and then the board. And I think I got it for like $300, which felt like a deal. But because but then it's like, I think it depends on the game too, right? Like that Fantasy Star board that sold went for what? 28,
I think so,
something like that. So like, I mean, if it's the right game, I mean, dude, I sold that Street Fighter prototype.
Yep.
That big board. I probably could have got more for it than what I did, but I mean, I thought it was probably worth $5,000, and I think I got $4. From it just happened to be in the right place at the right time. But the thing I'll say about that stuff too, the older hardware, it's that like, it's not even that whatever form it takes, because I've seen people try to sell like PS3 discs and stuff, PS2.
Yeah.
It's just easier to prove hardware than it is a disc. Anybody could burn a disc. Hardware is way harder to say like this is legit old school hardware. It's got the way that the boards are built, the Sega, like the stamping, all the different, who's going to go and actually try to do that now?
Yeah.
I wish somebody would, in a sense, because then it would make the boards, it'd make the ROMs easier to have value, because if you just sell somebody some chips, it's like, well, what am I buying? You got to have a board to be able to play it. Otherwise, it's just data. I mean, yes, you can rip the data, you could recreate it as a ROM, you could play it on an emulator, but if you want to play it on a real system, you have to have the board there.
Yeah.
So that's why at one point in time, I was like, the boards became worth more than the chips, because if I don't have boards, I can't play the games, or I can't package them up as like, here's this game on an actual, playable form. I think the other interesting thing about the old stuff is that it's kind of like there were dev systems, but there weren't dev kits exactly, because everything was custom. Like people were building their own software. There wasn't like a environment for like PlayStation. I think PS1 was maybe one of the first consoles where there was actually like kind of dev, like you could get equipment, you could get like tooling, like, hey, well, we've done this work for you, so you don't have to figure out the display all on your own. You can utilize these libraries and other things. But everything before that, like companies would build their own engines, and that became the proprietary thing to protect, was how they built their engine. Because like the idea of cross-platform almost didn't exist for a while. Like if you played a game on one platform and you played another, it was probably going to be a totally different game.
Yeah.
But for companies like EA, they started thinking, okay, well, how can we build? And and SNES and Genesis were already pretty different machines. They were close in some ways, but they were fundamentally hardware different. And it was like, how do you build something that because then the idea was, well, let's build it once. It's the promise of Unity. Build it once and publish it everywhere. But that became really difficult. That was a really hard nut to crack, right? Not a lot of developers had the skill to actually do that. So, I think so that there's just so much more of it out there. Everything was very customized and very purpose built. Right now, it's like, oh, it's a disc.
Yeah.
Disc is a disc is a disc. And maybe it's DVD, maybe it's Blu-ray, maybe it's CD, but it's still. I think fundamentally, it's just this thing. And that's.
I think the boards do look cooler because they're obviously older than just seeing a disc, right? Like part of the reason, like even though there's really cool games, the prototypes for that are on a disc for like PS3 or Xbox or whatever else, right? Most of it is just your blank CD that you can get at literally any place, right? And then it's just written on there what the board is, like what the game is. And I mean, none of them, like even the boards themselves for games, like it's not like there's any cool artwork or stuff. But from a displayability aspect, like I think it's more of a attention getter and like a conversation starter with the piece, like the board versus the disc, right? And so it like they just look. In the end they just look cooler. The problem is like sometimes the sizes are massive. Like that Street Fighter one that you had was huge.
God,
like that thing was
I thought. Well, here's the funny thing too is I thought about getting it like authenticated, and I was like, well, I know it's authentic. I don't need to prove that to anybody, But then I was like, well, how's it going to get slabbed? Like it would have to go to VGA. It would be this gigantic, thing, super fragile. Like, is it really, It's like cool. I'm sure it would be something that would have gotten a lot of attention. I would have been interested to see what it would sell for at auction. But I was like, you know what? I don't have the patience for that. And I found somebody who, it's like sometimes you can just tell. Like somebody's like, the guy was like, oh man, I collect dev hardware. This would be so great. I'm gonna put this in my Tower Power. This would be awesome. Like, cool, man, enjoy it. Like, I like connecting people with stuff where that's the right thing for that person, right? For their collecting style or whatever. And some people,
and you have all the connections to make it happen.
And it was funny was I met somebody. He didn't end up buying it, but I had a Wata game. I had some graded stuff out on my table over the weekend. And I had a Wata game out, and the guy was like, I was like, yeah, it might be worth more if it had PSA. And he's like, actually, I like Wata label better. I like their casing, and say, like, he liked it better. I'm not going to tell somebody how to collect. Like, if you like it better, cool. Like, you can't obviously go back in time and make PSA into Wata. You can make Wata into PSA, but if you, so like, I know that there's like a sort of a contemporary sort of like, oh, this is PSA. I understand that. And people react more strongly to that. But a lot of times people see graded stuff and they just like back off. They're like, you're into graded stuff. Like they change, like my whole opinion of me like changes in 2 seconds. Cause like I was this one guy I remember I used to see all these shows. And he would come up to me and start talking. And he'd see the Wata stuff. And he'd be like, oh, Wata, that's kind of a problem. And then he kind of like climb up. Then he just stopped. I'd see him. And he stopped coming to my booth entirely. Cause he was like, you could tell I was kind of like done with having the conversation. Like, okay, what do you want me to say? Like I'm like, it's not the game's fault that it's graded. If you don't like it, break it out. Like nobody's stopping you. Go get a bunch of views on YouTube because you're the crazy guy who breaks out freeze games from their acrylic tombs and be that guy, I guess. Like once you buy it, you can do whatever you want to do with it. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. But the only issue that Prototypes is going to face is it doesn't have like a cover. And now we're kind of having an issue where people are putting covers on Prototypes, and now people are like, well, a Prototype wouldn't have the games.
Are you talking about Punch Out? Or
no,
are you talking about...
Well, there's been other ones like where the cover art is on the Prototype, but it's like, well, it wouldn't have, the Prototype shouldn't have a cover art because it's...
Well, I haven't seen, the only example I've heard of was that Punch Out. And that
there's a couple others. Like there was a Punch Out. There was the one that had the what game was it? Super Mario Bros. 3 or whatever. There was one of the Super Mario Bros. Like, but it had Family Fun Fitness or whatever. Like that was because like they swap out,
like they cut out the cart.
Like they remove they just remove the sticker or whatever. But like I think what Evan was saying or what Heritage was saying at the time is that it was like a common practice because they would just swap out the basically the cartridges for whatever like to actually put the game into the system basically, right? Like it wasn't they weren't just putting the straight boards in, I guess. I don't know. He said something in the SAC channel. I don't want to speak for him because I didn't really look at, but yeah.
It is interesting because like the Super Nintendo boards I got, they were just boards. They didn't have a shell.
Well, most boards don't. That's why.
That's what I'm saying. If people start adding shells and add a cover on them, how do you feel about that if that starts getting approved?
I don't think they would get approved. I think they would at this point. These companies know what is and what isn't. Because like the Mike Tyson, the Punch Out one, for instance, right? Mm-hmm. That was like a mock-up cover art that was supposedly going to happen, and there's already like a trail of information from that. Mm-hmm. So it's they can authenticate that. I don't see like people making up mock-ups for boards for like a Super Nintendo cartridge and it getting past authentication.
Okay.
I don't know why. I guess I don't know why anybody want to, because
Yeah,
it's like,
like, I
I mean, having the shell makes sense for ease of putting it in the system and taking it out, but and labeling it, I suppose, helps if you have many and you don't want to get confused what's what.
Well,
but
and
if it's
some
like
prototypes,
a relic of like an old thing where somebody cut up a cartridge in production, like while during production to do that, I mean that's like some provenance, right? But if it's after the fact, I don't know why. I'm not sure why anybody would do that.
but some prototypes have cartridges already with them. Like I sent in a Zombies Ate My Neighbor's Super Nintendo prototype, and that had the cartridge, and then it had the yellowed label that had the black black box text that said "Zombies Ate My Neighbors" on the front of it, right? Like there is prototypes that have that already, but I don't see it. But from a fake counterfeit standpoint, there's no point. Like,
there is if you're trying to convince somebody that it is real. Like I had Lester the Unlikely for Super Nintendo, and it had a printed Lester the Unlikely logo on one of the stickers on one of the chips. That was there from however long ago. Why would they do that then? Like, I don't know. I like there's decisions that were made, and it's not like all prototyping was like here's the guideline to do this all, right? Everybody was just kind of flying by the seat of their pants, and people made weird decisions for who knows why, and there's no way to ask them now. So like somebody had a
somebody at my door again. Over back.
Somebody had the Sonic. They did a video about the Sonic 2 cardboard box, and like, why does this exist? And it's like, I don't know. Maybe there's somebody who used to work for Sega in, manufacturing who could answer that question. But like, I don't even know who to ask or how to find that person. Right? Like, there must have been a reason why they did it. And
it's like, why did Halo had a Steelbook box for the first one, and they didn't use the Steelbook box?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You haven't seen Monty?
I've seen the Steel Halo 2, but not for
the first one for Game of the Year, wow. and there's supposed to be one for Combat Evolved too. It hasn't been shown in public in a while, but there's a couple of the Game of the Year Steelbook.
Yeah, I just the thing with the Punch Out, that one didn't rise to the level of suspicious to me because it looks period. It matches what some of the marketing stuff, it's funny, I actually had a chance to ask David Crane in person. I picked up that Gunfighter cartridge for the Atari 2600. Gunslinger exists and Outlaw exists, and it's the same game on the inside, but it says Gunfighter on the outside. I know it's a legit Atari label. It was probably a test cartridge. It was probably like a test print. And he was like, oh, it looks like it might be a bootleg. And I'm like, well, why would anybody 10 years ago want to bootleg this game? Like, there's no reason to. And why would they, if they bootlegged it, why would they make it look like a legitimate Atari cartridge? It looks like it's the same. It's got the same. And I talked to Frank about it briefly. He's like, yeah, if it has the same texture and the same print quality, he's like, it does look a little bit pixelated, but that's not to say that others didn't. Like, if it has the same gloss and sheen and quality, if you look at it in a microscope, there's ways to just kind of do comparisons, right? Just intelligently, A and B. Nobody was going to that level of pain. It's like people can't even get seals right now. So how are they going to go to 10 now in modern day? How are they going to go back 10 years and print a label to make it look like a real Atari cartridge when it's not? Why would they? What would be the point? So to me, it's okay, it's most likely was just a test cartridge. They probably changed the title because they realized they might get sued, and they didn't want to deal with that. So it was but there's all these processes, things that happen nobody really knows about, right? There's not nobody's really gone back and said, hey, this is what Atari's process was to print a game in the 70s. Who really fucking knows? So you just have to kind of piece it together the best you can, understanding there were limitations, and understanding also that things were happening super fucking fast. As fast as they could come up with the idea, and it's okay, now we've got an assembly line. Let's go retool that assembly line so we can do this thing that we wanted to do now, which is different than what it was, 2 weeks ago.
So with all these details that you do know, why isn't there a Fupper authentication service for prototypes?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Frank,
you
watch
and
out.
Frank need to
for you.
Team up. At this point, you can be his right-hand man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I can mostly tell just because, like, again, like who's like. So I did. It's funny. I did buy at one point on eBay just like a set of like Atari chips, just because it was like, oh, what are these, right? And then I learned later, like, oh yeah, these were pretty much bootleg back in the day, and
that's why I found out too. A lot of them are bootleg.
Yeah, and which is fine, right? It's like, but no, it's like you have to kind of have gone through it to know, right? Like if I didn't check it out, then I'd just be guessing. Yeah. So you kind of have to try it, experience it, and like, you know. But again, like for me, obviously Sega stuff, it's easier for me to tell because I was there. I got to see it happen firsthand, and I could tell, like with the Nintendo stuff I got, like, oh, it's obviously from that era, right? Like there's just like, and I've seen enough other examples too, right? So I think one of the things I heard you guys say, and Henry too, and I think is important, is people need to see the stuff.
Yep.
Because when it's a mystery, then everybody's got questions. Oh, why is this like this? And you know, it's like, but if you could at least see an example, right? Then you have something to compare against. Now, is there going to be some sophisticated person out there who says, "Oh, I can make a fake that looks just like that," or you know, like the guy that, what was the guy that got he got squelched after he did the sticker on top of the the sticker on top of the space invaders. Yeah, like he just to mask the big hole in the front.
And there was the guy who scammed an entire like PC gaming community. Remember that?
Oh, that the Italian
involved the. Yeah. Garrett loves that story. He loves talking about that story, dude. If he knows, it's the one thing he'll always bring up to the PC guys and like get under. He'll just bring it up. And
for anyone that doesn't know, PC Big Box hates graded, but their community got scammed the biggest graded scam I've heard of hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Like a guy he'd been in the community for a long time.
He was a mod. And his gimmick was he would tell everyone there were scams. So he'd be in the group and be like, oh, watch out for this scam. Watch out for this scam. So then everyone thought, oh, if he looks out for scams, he wouldn't scam me. So he just started printing up Ultima boxes and selling them fake CDs. He'd sell them discs that had nothing on it. It would be blank, no game. And these guys
it took him that long to figure out that this guy, like, that's the crazy thing. Imagine, like, are you just not opening the game at that point? These are people who say the games are meant to be played, right? And let's just say they bought it within 3 months, and then like 4 months, 5 months, whatever time goes by, and they're like, "Oh, I never checked the game or whatever." That means they just had it on their shelf chilling.
Oh no, they said,
you know what I mean?
They said, they all said it's dangerous to play the game. So they went against the. We have to play the game.
What
these were too dangerous. I don't know.
That shit is delicate. I mean, here's the funny thing: is that, to be honest with you guys, like discs that are that old, it's amazing there is anything that you could even read them at all.
Yeah. Well,
because
the disc
like
rot,
that
right?
media is not.
Says.
It's not even rot. It's just that magnetic media doesn't last forever.
Oh yeah.
Like it's the field, the magnetic field will eventually collapse, and then the data will not have anywhere to be anymore. Like,
so what do you think?
And it's funny because older, floppies, like older floppies, are much better media than like the 3.5 inch or 5.25 inch disc, 3.5 inch diskettes. The diskette media was cheaper and lower quality, so those are more likely to break down and lose data than the 5.25. But even after 40, 50 years, the shit's going to start to degrade.
Yeah.
Like you're going to lose. So I'm sorry, what was your question?
I was going to say,
what
like,
do I think
that affects the collectability or the market, like going forward, because people have the same feelings of why they don't buy consoles is because the battery leakage and everything. But I don't think that matters. You're not really buying.
Okay, let me ask you guys. Side. Okay, here's point in to your point. I have this disc. Okay, I got this from a guy. My down the street neighbor, 40-something years ago, he knew I was into Apple stuff, and he had a big box of stuff. Okay, I have this. This says it's from EA. It's Earl Weaver Baseball Beta 7, whatever. Right? It's got all this data on it. And if you look real close, up in the top, I wrote Apple Works files or something. Like, I overwrote this. I didn't even know what this was. And I was like, Earl Weaver Baseball, that game sucks. And I just fucking overwrote this, right? So that game is not on here. This is
You're
whatever.
telling me that you could put that in a PC group.
Oh,
You
my-
could put that in a
And tell
PC
them,
group and tell
oh
them,
look, I've got Earl Weaver baseball. Wow,
Yeah.
versions.
But this
Nobody's
is
ever
also-
seen this before.
But this is the prototype guy
know?
destroyed a prototype.
No,
Well,
here's what I
don't
should do.
think-
Here's what I should do. This is what I should do. I should go find this actual version, copy it onto this disc, and be like, "Hey, it's real now.
I mean, the
It's
thing is
legitimate.
like,
It's the data. Like it's
I-
it's the is this in and of itself, this piece of plastic with this label on it, does this have value?
I
With
think so.
even it
I think so,
independent
too.
of what's on the disc.
yeah.
If you think so, I'd salute that, right? I agree. This is a piece of history,
Yeah.
and I was a dumb kid who didn't really appreciate this at the time. If I was me now and talking to me then, I'd slap myself upside the head and say, "What are you thinking? Because this
Yeah.
is crazy. Like you shouldn't even. I shouldn't even have. I don't even know how he got it. Like that's the thing. Like all this stuff in the Bay. Like I live in the Bay Area, so like all this stuff shows up randomly. And I've been to the game shop downstairs. That guy gets all sorts of crazy stuff. Because Silicon Valley people just have boxes of shit and they go, here you go, because they don't know what's in it.
The West Coast is the best place to be for games, man. It's where every
100%.
like major company is.
Yeah,
And
but the stuff just appears in weird places. Like I got that gunfighter cart out of a lot from some lady who was just like, this is my husband's old stuff and I don't need it anymore.
yeah.
Right? And I don't even know what it's worth. Because it's worth something to somebody, but I have no idea what it is. I mean, I'll buy the prototype carts on Heritage sometimes because, like, oh, that's cool. And when you have that thing, it's like, okay, I kind of there's a curiosity. I want to check it out. Maybe there's something about this version that's different. They just assumed it was the same, so I'll check. But like, even without that, like, there's people like I bought it and then I told this other guy who's an Atari collector, and he was like, dude, if you ever want to get rid of it, you know who to sell it to. Because he appreciates it, right? So it's like these really micro communities where people appreciate this stuff, but it's like somebody has to save it.
Yeah.
I hate seeing this stuff get tossed or just end up in somebody's hands and they just don't really care about it. Like there's got to be some thought toward like this, because what was it? I think it was Video Game History Foundation. Frank's, I think they said like 90% or more of anything ever developed in video games is lost forever.
Wow.
Like gone. You'll never see it. It doesn't and it's only stuff like when I had my buddy's stuff and I found that those two ROMs for Virtual Pinball. That's the only version of that thing that exists anywhere in the world, as far as we know, right? Because nobody had found it before. If they had, they never said anything about it. They weren't doing any service to anybody, and so I could just assume that like they're unique and that's cool, right? Because it's like, oh, that thing existed and nobody knew it existed before. So its value from historical value to me is how do you measure that? Because it's like,
yeah,
I didn't know this was there.
Yeah.
But then there's the stuff it's there and you just have to find it. And then there's the stuff you don't even know existed at all. Like what was that game, that extraterrestrials game for the 2600? Nobody knew anything about it. It was like some Canadian guy printed like 100 cartridges of it. And then somebody found it and thought, oh, this must be some knockoff thing or something. I was like, no, this is actually like a real game. Somebody invested money and made this game.
Yeah.
It's just really rare because they only made like, printed like 100 of them.
yeah.
Be
So
worth
it's
like a poop slinger.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Until that property got demolished by somebody sending out all those copies, the value of Poop Slinger went to shit overnight. It's amazing. And it's funny how people like actually had a guy from the game stores was like, "Hey Joe, I got a Poop Slinger. Do you want to get it?" He's like, he didn't tell me what the story was behind it. He's just trying to floss me.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I was like, dude, come on, man, you can't be like that. But it was funny. It was funny. We had that kind of relationship where I can give him shit about it, but give him shit about Poop Slinger. Oh, the jokes never stop. And then I went to K-Quarter store and he had like 2 copies of like 1,000 spikes. He's like, you want one of these? I'm like, that stuff's all coming out of the woodwork. It's like who knows how rare it really is.
Yeah.
But like for me, it's funny because like I tend to look at I know there's oddball games out there that are worth a bunch of money just because they're oddball games, right? Colibri that I dropped off, like that's a game on 32X that like 50 people know about.
Yeah.
And it's a weird, but it's apparently a very good game. I mean, I think I tested a little bit. It's a good game, but it's just this weird offshoot thing that very few people know about it. Or a Def Jam or a Ninja 5.0. These are games that like I don't even know if they're any good, honestly. So what makes them valuable? Just that they're rare. Like to me, I would try to like I paid up, or I thought I paid up at least a little bit for a Symphony of the Night because I wanted that game. I wrote a strategy. I played the fuck out of that game. I helped write the strategy guide for it, and I wanted a copy. That's kind of like my first real like investment Grail type piece where I'm like, I am spending intentional money on this thing that has no real godly reason for being as expensive as it is, but that's just the market, and I'm gonna bite the bullet and buy it now because who knows what it's gonna be. Maybe it goes to dirt, right? If it does, I'm fine with it because I still have it because I want it as a collectible. I want it as a showpiece.
Well, the reason is like it's probably Castlevania Symphony of the Night is like I would put that above any other Castlevania. It's like what everybody thinks of when they think of Castlevania, to be honest.
Yeah.
But also it's the fact that it's still sealed, and the intention of that game was to be open and played. And obviously, all the CIB copies, I think, are somewhere between like $100 and $300. I haven't really looked it up, but I think it's
they're in the two range. Yeah.
But it's the same thing with prototypes, right? The accidental aspect is what carries this hobby the way that it carries anything else, right? TCG, the fact that you can find a sealed base set booster box when they were meant to be opened, when the packs were meant to be opened, and you still find it's the same concept. And people will go goo over anything like TCG related, even sports and normal TCG. And then somehow the mindset comes into games and it's the same thing. These were meant to be open. People were meant to check out the cards, fill out check card lists, fill out binders, blah, blah, blah. Games were meant to be played, yes. But the reason these are collectible is because they are still sealed after 40 plus years, some even like 10 years, right? The intention behind them is ultimately what gives to the rarity of these items. And it's like you're now in a space too where, again, values are being added to these items, and just like TCG, it is speculative in some ways. But also, you're not going to be buying Castlevania Symphony of the Night expecting to lose money. You know what I mean? Like you're not buying it at, let's just say, $1,500, and then you're like, that game's now going to be worth like $100. I don't see Castlevania Night ever being $100 overnight. Like there will still be some value to it. Going down the road. And that's what people don't... That's what I shouldn't say that's not what people understand. That's what normies don't get about the hobby, but that's not what this channel and these things are really even geared towards. It's like you're going over kind of the different markets and like basically giving legitimacy to this hobby, because there is a legitimacy to games. They're just as viable as any other category, right? Because as Henry likes to point out, $200 billion a year, right? Like, it's one of the largest mediums.
Even though most of it's mobile.
These days.
I mean, you have the mobile.
He forgets that part.
But it doesn't matter. Like, people have more of a exposure to games than they do anything else. Now, obviously, social media has changed that for like cards and stuff like that. Like, and obviously the high prices. But that's institutional money. Games are not institutional money. So,
well, I mean, some of it, I guess, but not much. But
not all of it.
But the thing I think what we touched on earlier is like the how emotional people get about games, right? I don't feel like people get. I mean, definitely people get emotional about their music. They get emotional about their movies, but not movies. But VHS pump. But it's not as much of a thing where people are going to be mad at you because you have a sealed VHS as if you have a sealed game. And I don't know if it's because of like, because I can watch that movie anywhere. I can go on a service or I can go find a cheap copy of it. for some reason people get really like fanatical about like this thing with games, and like it's like nostalgia is a motherfucker, because it's like people are so tied, their value is so tied to this thing as, oh, if you like this or if you like that, well now you're my person because you're into this thing that I'm into, or we are on the same wavelength. But like it's the minute you're like a filthy speculator, right? Oh, you want that game because it's worth money. It's like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that if you do, but maybe you don't. Like I didn't buy the Castlevania as a intentionally as a investment, other than knowing that if I don't get it now, I might have to pay more for it later.
Yeah.
Right. And it's the best quality copy I could find at a price I could stomach. So I went for it. Now, and later on, will it prove to be worth the investment? I don't know, but it doesn't necessarily matter to me. It's just, I wanted it so I could have it and say I have it, right? Like it's a cool piece. I have a connected, like I have a more connected history to it just because of the fact that I also wrote a strategy guide for it. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is that first trip I made up to the Pacific Northwest 2 years ago, I stopped at the Aurora Antique Pavilion. There's a bunch of stuff, a bunch of vendors up there. This guy, Ed Annunziata, he's on Instagram. He's one of the booths, but there's other game booths. And the first case I came to in that shop on that trip, inside the first case that had anything that I thought was cool, like there's there's tons of like glassware and all sorts of things. But I came to around the corner and I came to a booth and I looked inside him. So the first thing I saw in the fucking booth was the strategy guide that I wrote.
Wow.
And I just bought it. I didn't even care how much it cost. It wasn't even that expensive. It has kind of a crease on the front. I don't give a fuck. I was like, wow.
Hopefully it's more than $1. Hopefully it's worth more than $1.
I think it was $80.
Okay, good. Oh man, good.
But I was like, I'll pay it.
$1. You're like, man, my.
I got free. I got free copies of it, and my ex ended up with all that stuff. But I'm not blaming her. I'm not blaming her. Whatever. It happened. We had the shared experience of actually building it together. So I mean, I appreciate that for what it took. But I had a connection to that. So now it's like I'm connected to the book. I'm connected to the game. Now I have them both together. It's kind of cool, right? It's like that's a piece of my. For a while, I wanted to get every game that I ever worked on sealed, right? I actually bought. I tried to buy it yesterday. It got to be too expensive. The first game I tested at Sega was X-Mutants. I picked up a CIB copy of it at the Aurora Pavilion this last trip, just a couple weeks ago. It just happened to be in Ed Annunziata's case, and it was complete. Had the manual. I was like, cool, I'm buying. So like, I kind of wanted to have like, these personal, because it all meant something to work on this stuff. I have sealed copies of all the, except for Lilo and Stitch, of the 3 or 4 games I worked on at Digital Eclipse. I still have a sealed copy of those. And if I ever was to authenticate them, it would be to do nothing but protect them. Right? People think, oh, you're just doing it because you want money. It's like, well, who knows? Maybe someday I'll die and my kids might want to sell it. Maybe it's worth something to them. But for me, it's like the longer I keep it in a box, the more chance there is that something can happen to that box, and then that thing gets damaged and I can't replace it. So I would rather have it slabbed so it's protected. And people don't. They don't see the subtlety. They don't want it. They don't want to. Right? The guy that was all against Wata, he didn't want to hear why it could be good. He's just made up his mind, and it's like, okay, I'm not going to convince you, so I'm not going to try. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you can't see it a different way. Like I'll be flat out honest. Like when I first got into it, the first thing I did is I bought my first step in collecting, aside from the little stuff I had picked up. Some guy on Marketplace was selling some Genesis titles, and he happened to have a big bunch of stuff. His uncle had passed away. This was his uncle's collection. He had like 25 CIBs and 25 sealed games that I bought from him. And I didn't pay. I paid what I thought was fair at the time. I didn't really know, because some of the stuff just has so few sales. It's hard to know, right? I picked up a few things I thought, okay, that could be special. But like, I was going to avoid Wata because I had heard bad stuff. I was like, oh, Wata, that sounds like, I don't know if it wasn't even that I was like saying I believe everything is bad. It's just like, oh, maybe that has a bad connotation connected to it, and I wouldn't want to have that. And then I talked to Alan Fletcher, who is a major collector, and he absolutely, in the very beginning, I ran into like 3 or 4 people: Jeff Masser, Andrew Brim, Alan, and somebody else I'm forgetting. I can't remember them, but like a handful of people who were like, "Hey, welcome in," and they were super cool. They were not trying to like take advantage of me. They were not like saying, "Hey, you found that? Oh, let me get that from you super cheap now." Alan was like, "Hey, man, bring your stuff by, and I'll tell you what you got, if it's worth anything, like what you should do with it."
Would he own
And
a
he
store
was like,
or just his house?
just his house. But he had dude, that guy. When I remember walking into his place and seeing, he had so many slabs. He had, I mean, I could tell this guy knew what he was talking about because he clearly was living it, right? And he was like, "Okay, well, this is what you have. This is what's worth something. You should do this. You should, not do that." And it was really helpful.
Very cool.
And it was like, so I just want to, like, now it's like pay back, right? Like I kind of want to pay that forward.
Yeah.
And he was like super welcoming and like, "Hey, maybe you'll find some other stuff someday. Maybe I'll be interested in it," or whatever. But he was never like greedy or felt like
you owe me something for doing this.
Yeah, or like gatekeepy, right? Like he wasn't like, "Oh, you don't have, oh yeah, your stuff's fine, but get back to me when you get some real shit." So it was nothing like that. It was all positive. So
very cool.
It was a really good first experience. And so, but like, dude, I mean, and it's funny too, because I kind of lost track of that guy that I bought the stuff from. I kind of wanted to tell him because his mom, I guess it was his uncle's sister, was thinking, "Oh, this stuff is just worth it." He had coins and other stuff. He was much higher profile things that are like known values, right? Or respectable collectibles. And just games are just junk. And I kind of wanted him to know that like this stuff was actually really cool, because the one game that there was a handful of games. There was like a Streets of Rage 2, a Streets of Rage 3. But the one that was special, which I thought could be special, but I had no data to tell me at the time it was special, was there was a Ghouls and Ghosts for the Genesis in that. And I think by value alone, just when we were going through the numbers and trying to track down, I think I valued it like $75. And that game went on to sell for like $14,000 at auction after it was created.
Crazy.
Like, it was insane, man. I was like, how in the hell did that happen?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, but that was one of those things where like, and I won't name names, but somebody made me an offer online for like $3,500 for the sealed copy. And I was like, well, if it's worth $3,500 sealed, it's got to be worth more graded.
Yeah.
So I kind of was like, but again, to go back to Alan's thing was, yeah, Wata's not perfect. He's like, they do some stuff I think is dumb, and I've told them so. So he was a realist, as well as being a somebody who was like, yeah, I deal with these guys, I know them.
I think there's a lot of that in the hobby too, though.
Yeah. Well, I think he knew these guys, and he realized it's important enough that the reputation of the company means something beyond just the people that are doing the work, right? And like, if you're going to make that your brand, and your brand has issues, and people think that there's something going on, it's kind of whether you really is or not. It's sort of on you a little bit to like get out ahead of it and try to say, no, this is actually, we really are on the up and up. Like this is just a one-off thing, or do something, right? But just to kind of let the rumor mill swirl and not say anything, I don't think that helped them very much.
No.
And I don't want to give all the power in the world to Carl Jobst either, because like he's just one guy. But like the narrative was strong enough, right? The narrative was strong. That seed, it still is impacting people. They see Wata and they go, "Oh, keep that." Like. Well, I tried to explain to somebody.
Now the crowd is more, what is Wata? Because the people coming out, it's not even the fact of, there's still those people who scam, but I think that's the people who like, it's the old people, like the ones that learned about it 4 or 5 years ago. And so like they're still commenting or whatever. All the new people, even the messages I get through eBay and everything like that, when I had like not Wata in the title or whatever else, and they're like, what is Wata? And things like that. And like, to me, that is a marker that games were nowhere close. Like, they were selling for insane amount of money in a market that was nowhere close to what it could be. And honestly, might be bigger right now, but it might just be select titles. Because there was no like main company that people trust or even knew about. You know, like PSA, having the PSA rebrand has changed things. VGA now doing more marketing is changing things. CGC, when they got into it, was also another catalyst for games during kind of like the down point. But right now, I think they're just struggling. And hopefully things get changed over there. But like with the rebrand and these things that have happened, like the people coming in are no longer asking like, oh, the Wata scam, or talking about it. And people will say scam and they're like, what the heck are you talking about? And blah, blah, blah. It's all just like, they have no idea who Wata is. And it's fine with me. I could care less. And they'll just buy PSA. And the thing, too, that I told people who would ever bring up the scam thing, I'm like, they're not even the same company anymore.
Yeah.
Even when they were under Wata. That whole team got like basically gutted and removed. Yeah. And then they added in new people, you know, like Claire and Dan and stuff like that. And so it was never the same. It's just the echo chamber was so small that all you heard was the same 5 people on Facebook and in Instagram comments, like bringing that up, which was the most tiring thing about it. Because I was just like, we're already 4 year past, and your buddy Carl Jobs is buying graded video games. Exactly. So like it just removes the whole argument in the first place, when literally he's in our Discord asking about like prices on Doom games because he wants to collect it, and I have no problem with that.
It's funny how that was like the anti-heel turn. You know, it was like, oh, we thought he was a jerk. Oh, now he's one of us. All right, sweet.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now he's going to go talk about how great graded games. He's like, I never said graded games were bad.
Yeah, I never said
Wata. I just said Wata was full of shit.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, like, it's not that nobody's denying any of those things, right?
Yeah, right.
It's just we moved past it so much, so you know, a lot. Like basically, 3 months after the video came out, everybody moved in the hobby, kind of moved on from it. But yeah, it did impact things, but I don't know. It's really tough to say how much of an impact it truly had, because the time that it came out was also, I think, did it come out after the July signature? I think it did. And the July signature was, you know, one of the craziest ones that ever happened. And I think a lot of people, that auction might have turned people off because they saw like Super Mario 64, you know, in 9.8 hitting 1.5 mil. You know, a lot of these games were just out of the reach of most people. A Final Fantasy VII 9.4 sold for like $144,000 in that auction. You know, like people could see that things were inflated, if you will. And like the common buyer, which is what we have now, you have that healthy reset where games now are, you know, either trading at or above what they were like 4 years ago. And we may see 2021 prices. Who knows? But like, I don't know. I like the hobby has come and gone between like all that stuff, and it's in a better spot now, I think.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder at some level if it's like, because I still feel like, I mean, there is some amount of people out there with Wata, you know, still on their mind, right? But even without that, I think there's still these sort of parallel tracks between Wata is evil and video games are meant to be played.
Yep.
Right. And because they kind of represent like this is the thing that makes this possible, right? Wata grading games makes it possible for you to not play your games.
Yep.
And fuck whether or not PSA and CGC and VGA still do it too, right? It's just I am against this, like on a fundamental level. I bought a game the other day that was sealed and I opened it up just so I could play it. Haha, losers. It's like, okay, good for you, I guess. Like, if that's
that's great for me, because that's one less copy I have to deal with, dude. Keep doing it. If people want to keep opening up sealed games, go ahead, man. It'll make my copies even better. You know?
Yeah, it's like they're trying to give you the finger, and it's like, okay, whatever. But it's like, it's just funny that like they want to get so caught up in like this identity of like, I'm a real gamer, I'm a real collector, and it's like, again, there's no right way to do it. Like, you know, for me, like I don't. You know, people that do sets, like, man, that's crazy to me. Like, good on you and good luck, because that would drive me nuts. I couldn't do it. Like, I had like half a mind to do Super Nintendo set at one point because that's my favorite console. It's like, there's no way this is ever happening.
Yeah,
it's I think it's still one of the most expensive consoles to collect for.
Well, you know, so funny story, real quick. I fucked up over last Thursday. I was watching the showcase, and I wanted that Super Ghouls and Ghosts, the VGA 80, because I thought, oh, it might have crossover potential. And I was bidding, and I thought I won it. And then a couple seconds later, I'm still seeing it going at auction. I'm like, wait a minute, why is this still? What did I? And I'm like, wait a second, what happened? I didn't hear the auction is still going. So I was like, what? And so I looked back, and it turned out I was idiot, and I was bidding on the Super Metroid 90 plus, and I won that one.
You won the Super Metroid?
I won the Majesco.
I mean, dude, it doesn't even matter though. It's 90 plus.
That was the thing, Greg.
What'd you win it for?
The same price that the Super Ghouls went for. $1,500.
It only went for $1,500. I don't care. This is what I mean, dude. I could care less what print it is because 90 plus VGA on cardboard is like
yeah. So now the idea is
you're entering like 9/8 territory with
I'm gonna cross. I think I'm gonna cross it. I think the strategy is cross it and then see if I can because it would. I think Greg said the highest copy was like 9.4. The highest PSA copy is like 9.4. So like cross it and then see what happens. Because I mean, dude, I love that game. Like Super Metroid is a fucking amazing game. And I only have kind of gotten into the print thing just because like I would love to have a first print. And I know that like because the quality of the boxes and the stuff inside was lower. So it's just like kind of like a mental thing that way. But like the game itself is like it's fucking Super Metroid. That's one of my all-time favorite games. Like
I would almost say, like from a condition standpoint, the Majesco is better just because you know that the Majesco box is way more brittle. You know, it's like N64. Like that's the funny thing about prints is you can have them made in Japan because it's first and you know it's nicer quality, but it's nicer quality, which means that there's a chance of higher, more higher grades. But then you get into Majesco, which everybody knows that Majesco, the seal and the box is absolute crap. And so like I would kind of assume that most of the pop report for Majesco print is going to be low between like 9.4 and 9.8, especially like A++ seals. So like,
I feel like because I really wanted
it like very interesting, but
I really wanted the super. So it's funny because I realized I bought the Super Metroid, and then the Super Ghouls is going for the same amount of money. I'm like, well, if I can't get out of this now, I've just doubled my, I'm trying to like survive in California without a job. I don't need to be spending, another $1,500. But I'm wondering,
incredibly cheap. No,
I'm wondering if it's a. What I'm wondering is if it's a archive, or if it's uncirculated.
Oh. From a case?
Well, because you're saying if the quality is that good.
Yeah.
It's possible that was from a case.
But maybe you bought a qualified and you don't know yet.
Oh, that too.
No. I'm sorry. I don't mean qualified. I mean.
No, I'm saying, what if you did?
Oh God, no. Then I'd jump off a bridge. Sealed Majesco later production 90 plus. Yeah, it just says 90 plus Majesco reissue. So it doesn't say archive.
I mean, dude, I think that's a crazy deal in my mind. I don't care. If
I only feel like
I don't care.
It might be. It might be. Well, sorry. Is Super Castlevania? Sorry, did I say Super Metroid?
Yeah.
Was
it the Super Castlevania 4?
Yeah.
I was gonna say I feel like a Majesco 90 plus Super Metroid.
Oh God, that would be nuts. Yeah. Did they even do Majesco? I don't even know.
No. Wait. I don't think they did.
This is the rabbit. This is the rabbit hole, right? We go down with versions.
This is too many pops. This is what I'm talking
knowledge,
about. Like,
the knowledge.
Hold on.
Well, I'll say this to you guys, by the way. I salute both of you because, like, in some of the discussion, and it's funny because Garrett knows I send him stuff sometimes.
I'm stupid bro. There's no Majesco.
Okay.
It's the screenshots.
Yeah. I said Castlevania. I said Metroid. I meant Castlevania. Scratch all that. But like I'll send Garrett stuff and be like, as a joke, I'll find a sealed VHS or Laserdisc. I'm like, am I rich? Because I don't know. But he knows. Like he could just tell from looking. Like, oh yeah. He's like, I found like a Laserdisc of what was it? 2001 Space Odyssey. He's like, oh yeah, I think that's actually maybe the second print. There might have been an earlier. I'm like, how the fuck do you even know that? Like, you guys touch so much of this stuff, and you're like instant like subject matter experts on. And I think that Like the value in that is absolutely.
And you go through so much.
But the value of that is underrated. People don't appreciate the fact that like the knowledge base, right? Like I kind of felt like this with my company, right? I was the kind of guy who like I knew every kind of how everything worked. So it'd be hard to get rid of me because without shutting the whole company down, which is what happened, but like it's hard to get rid of me because like it's institutional knowledge, right? Understanding all this stuff, right? You guys have that. And I think that's like a piece of value that gets lost when people are trying to like save a penny, you know, to make $1. It's like, are you gonna get the best advice from, you know, what you think or what you see? Like it's smart to deal with people who deal with this stuff all the time and know it inside out and upside down.
Well, and also what we're doing is bringing on people like you, like with prototypes. Like prototypes is very, like people don't know about it. Like that's part of the issue why people don't buy it.
Still an untapped market, yeah.
And they don't know the history. Like people, you know, if they know the history of where it came from, like experience, like, oh, this is how the prototypes came and these were the people that worked on it. I think that's going to increase the value of the story behind it.
All right. So now that you know that it's Super Castlevania and not Super Metroid, do I get to go back to Phil?
I mean, I still think 90 plus is solid for that box. So like, regardless, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, 94A++ is the highest. There's one 94A++ on on PSA Pops.
I still don't think it's like that bad of a buy.
Cross it, and.
I mean, you can.
Yeah, I'm still mad though because I want the
minimum grade.
I want the Super Ghouls, man. Like that was the game I was actually going after. I feel like an idiot.
There's always next time. Right. Thank you, Fupper, from coming to Hobby Speculators. The man, the myth, the legend. We hope to have you on more because you have so much insight. I think people are going to want more to know. Like we only touch really on Sega. I'm sure they'd want to hear more about your experiences everywhere else. So appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you for the time and for everything you guys do. I really appreciate it. And I'd be happy to come back whenever.
Appreciate you.
Perfect.
All right. Bye, everyone.